Rixaroth?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rumpelstiltskin, but he's taller.
Yeah. Rumpelstiltskin is.
That's what that is.
Rumpelstiltskin. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm putting all
I don't know what you're gonna think.
Oh,
These two don't work.
ready? 3, 2, 1. Everyone watching live, seeing what we're doing.
What up?
What
Can you see
up?
us?
Okay, hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Sacred Society podcast with myself here, X.
Dadpool.
And we have two guests here. We have a local artist, Douchebaggery, and Poontaggery.
Poontaggery, there you
Yes,
go.
that's what it's called, especially in
that.
prison.
Oh.
He's been seen on the Nakama podcast. He's been seen here at Sacred 8 Studios in the Sanctorum, and at least 3 episodes of Cops in the back.
But
3
naked.
AM Ghost. What's
What
going on,
up?
buddy?
What's up?
What you doing? How
How's
you
it
doing?
going? Good. Doing good, man.
Oh, great top.
So I'm trying to post this on my story real quick.
So, first and foremost, a few weeks back, Sanzu and I had gone out for our anniversary.
That's right.
We were trying to remind ourselves that we love each other and our vows and whatever that means. And we went all the way down to San Jose, or I should say up to, and we were checking out a bunch of different shops. And I had mentioned this on the pod to you a while back, but I had met this guy where she had found him on Google, and she was like, yeah, I found this dude with a really cool place. I'm all, if you're trying to party, I mean, this ain't really my dig. She's like, no, stupid. He's got great reviews, though. Oh, well.
I
guess. I'm going to call me Simba. But she had made the comment of like, oh, let's check it out. It'll look really nice. We ended up going up to, what is the city again? Campbell.
It's Campbell, California.
Okay, so we went to Campbell, and after we tried to go to Time Tunnel Toys, and they had been closed. We ended up going to the historic downtown, and we hung out, went upstairs to this really fucking beautiful place. And it's kind of that weird thing that I think we get here at the Sanctorum, but it's like the outside, it's unsuspecting.
Right.
You go inside, and then immediately you're like, oh, this is nice. Very hot yellow and pink neon like signs, a lot of time and effort put into like the steps going up to this place, and it has like the perfect aesthetic of like a Brooklyn flat. Like when you see it
Oh,
all that
okay.
place where
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just
yeah,
really
yeah.
homey
That's
and
nice.
So we went in there, saw a bunch of uwu anime statues.
Sounds like my
awesome
kind of
video
place.
games.
Ooh.
And then I go to the front counter and I meet this dude, and I was like, hey man, do you have any cards? I don't use cards. I have a tap thing. I was like, ooh, fucking fancy. And so
So 21st century.
yeah, I know, exactly. And we were talking for a bit, and dude just had some of the best fucking rapport. He had some tremendous customer service. We got to talking a little bit, and then we told him about the Sanctorum. And dude took us into his bosom, as only one that a very fluffy guy like myself can do, where the embrace is warm and strong, like big and hairy like a Russian bear, you know. And it was nice, man, to be able to go into this place and be received so warmly by him and his crew.
Yeah.
It was like seeing how I imagine people come to us sometimes,
Right.
and it feels nice to see that out there, because you especially and you,
Mhm.
we go to a lot of places, man, and there's places where you're like, you would be so cool if you weren't such a fucking
That's
bitch.
Yeah.
the fucking thing too. That's what sucks.
And so coming into a place that it was like genuinely having just a good vibe, tremendous customer service, and like the entire place, you can see love put into that place.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, we gotta fucking hang out. And eventually he came down today,
Hey.
spending the whole day hanging out.
Hey
bullshitting.
yo.
And yeah, dude, so we're having him here on the podcast. So without any further ado, say your name.
My name is Mr. Rudy. That's what most people commonly know me as. I also go by Sega Wolf, and I am the owner of the Retro Fix 2 Turbo Historic Campbell, California.
Hey.
Hey.
Well, welcome, welcome.
man.
I'm glad to be here.
Thanks for having me.
So, tell us what's your store about, bud.
My store, well, it's I kind of have this saying. I started out with an idea, and then as time went on, the customer clientele basis told me what the store was going to be. So I started with a vision of a retro video game store that was going to be somewhat little niche. I had a store that I loved, in my late teens. It was in the Bay Area, and I'm from the Central Valley, Stockton.
Hey, represent.
Representing Stockton. It was called Network Video, and it was located out in Burlingame, California. And I loved going there. I used to spend my paycheck every single month at that place until I was broke, and I loved it. And I always knew one day if I ever actually had the opportunity in my own game store, that I would want something that is similar to Network Video. And so I did start out as a very small, humble game shop, 175 square feet, probably the smallest in the West Coast, if not maybe the country. It was quite small. We were a sublet of another business inside there that is unfortunately no longer present there. And as we grew over time, we eventually ended up taking over the entire lease for that floor. And we went from 175 square feet to now 3,500. So we have, one of the largest video game stores that now carries anime, as well as like vintage and modern. We do 18 plus culture. As we like to call it. Yeah. It's something fairly new, and
For the ooh.
To all you men out there, Dick Fight Islands in 2 locations.
so
Run, don't walk.
Backwards preferably. Scoot backwards preferably.
So the way I like to sell that place is basically if you think it needs to be a part of the Retrofix, we're gonna make it happen. And we also have a gaming lounge, which has retro and modern, which is pretty much loved by everybody comes in. It's a very chill space where everybody is welcome. We leave all judgments and everything at the door. Very similar to Sacred. Leave that baggage at the door. Come in here because here you're free to express yourself and be yourself. Just don't be a dick.
Right.
That's it. Customer service is paramount. Taking care of everybody, understanding everybody comes in, and that's your opportunity to win people over. So we take every chance, every opportunity to win folks over to what we do. So yeah, the Retrofix is a little bit of everything for everyone.
Absolutely. What I loved about like when you first came in, like I have to say, the thing that I appreciated, because Sanzu and I were talking about it, and it's the environment of saying hello to somebody. Like I never get the goddamn name right. The Japanese bookstore.
Oh, Kinokuniya.
Kinokuniya.
I still didn't get it right.
Yeah, you just fucking heard it. Yeah.
What was it again? Kinokuniya? Kinokuniya.
Sekampunya.
Kinokuniya. And I know of this place because one of my former employees, Simone, she loved reading, and she and I would go to Kinokuniya weekly.
Wow.
That was her thing. So I actually started reading because of her. She helped me learn to read.
God bless you, lady. I hope you and Sheena Shunya do very well. But this place because I remember it in San Francisco, because in the Japantown over there they have so many different things they can do and see. But for years I've been going there because they have such great art of books that you can't find usually here in the States. The problem is the price tag on it is fucking astronomical. So like most of the stuff you find at Comic Cons, you'll find there.
Right.
And I didn't know that there was a location outside of SF. So when we found it, we went there first. We found some cool stuff, and that's how we kind of came upon you guys. And Sanzu and I were just talking about how it's got to be interesting walking into a shop like ours, because for the most part, you don't really see a lot of people coming. Like you had made an observation, like, oh, there's not a lot of walk-in traffic. It's like, no, this is not the place you walk.
Yeah.
If you're walking here like East Oakland, it's like, hey, you need help?
Yeah.
But like the guy who walked in the other day, the dude with the backpack.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The douchebag.
You told me about that.
Yeah, the fucking guy came with a backpack. I was like, hey man, I just need you to leave your bag at the door. You need to trust your fucking community. And I was like, I don't know you. In all the years I've been here, I've never seen you once. Also, if you're part of the community, why the fuck are you traveled like you're Rutsaki? You know what I mean? Like, you go making the long trek to fucking the granola town over at fucking Whole Foods, dickhead. You know what? There's a really nice place named Shomashuya that fucking gonna be the best place for you. I'll get it right one day. And so, fucking Jean-Claude Van Dipshit comes in here with an attitude. But it's like, after everything was kind of said and done, it was the family from Texas.
Oh yeah.
Like almost 2 hours with us.
Oh yeah.
Damn.
And they had a good time. They bought some stuff, but it's that connection with people where the actual people who want to be part of a community, like the actual idea of something, it was immediate at your place. And not only do you have a really good layout of the shop, but you have a good variety. and less is sometimes more. You know, you have a really big space, but I always tell the upstairs, right?
Yeah.
And so from there, what you have, like, and this is the one thing that kills me now, because you're seeing the shop without the big table, is the cleanliness of your place.
Thank you.
That is a huge thing when you go into a lot of comic shops where we try to hold our own here. I mean, we have to legally,
Yeah.
but you have a very clean place. You have a bunch of different gaming setups. You have some tables set up for like TCGs. You have your little bar set up, like how we do. So you have some stuff in your concession stand, and then you just have a very inviting presence. Like, hey man, how's it going?
Yeah.
And it feels nice because it's almost like going to. You remember Hey Arnold?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
His fucking room. It's like going up in that little room and you're like, this is dope.
Yeah.
I'm fucking away from everything, but I can see everything at the same
He had the lo-fi room before it was a thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
He did.
This fool was banging it out to Erykah Badu like it was nobody else's business. White chocolate on point. What made you want to open up Retro?
Oh man. So that story. I mean, how much time we got here?
Oh, dude, we do. Most of these are minimum 2 hours.
2 hours, yeah, minimum.
Okay.
That's like a Joe Rogan podcast without the money.
All right.
Correct.
So I
Without
have
the beefy.
I have told this story once before. It goes back to 2012. 2012, I was finishing up working at a place called Gamers Etc.
I remember Gamers, etc.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. So I
robbed that place.
Damn it.
So I worked there. It was around October 2010 until January 15th, 2012. That's where I met Trung, who was still there with me, and I was brought on by my friend Nicole. And this was kind of like during a hard part where I had my first business where I was working as an independent appraiser, working in the Central Valley and throughout the Bay Area, traveling. And a lot of dumb decisions that I made growing up, all the money that I earned, I didn't spend wisely, as we do.
Yes. Hey, young
As we
and
do.
dumb.
Mm-hmm.
But then work kind of dried up for me in my first business, and things started to fall apart. So I took on this part-time job just to kind of make ends meet. And for the first year, it was pretty rock solid. It was fun. I liked working there. I made good friends with Trung, which he's still with me today. We worked together at the Retrofix.
Hell yeah.
Actually, the name the Retrofix came from Trung.
Oh, wow.
He created the name the Retrofix. But going back to 2012, that's when I got laid off. And the reason for my layoff, when I was let go, is because I had brought up the fact that customers were saying, you should carry retro games. We want to get a Nintendo. It was just coming in sporadically, but
Right.
I was hearing it enough that I kept relaying it to the owner. And the owner was like, oh, we don't want to sell old junk. That's how I refer to it. I refer to everything as like old junk. And so I just let it go. And then as time went on, more and more people kept saying, hey, we want to see more retro stuff. Like, it's cool. And it was just at the early beginnings of retro getting popular. And I brought it up again, and they didn't like that. And I remember the day, it was January 15th, 2012. I'm driving on my way to work, and then Trung sends me a message. He says, like, hey, just going to give you a heads up. When you come in today, they're going to let you go. And I was like, whoa. Why? He was like, it's because of the retro thing. I was like, okay. So I went in there, called me in, and said they're letting me go. That they had their views, my views weren't in line with theirs, so they didn't feel it was a good fit, you know, that they want to sell new games, not retro. It's a culture they're not interested in getting into. And so that was it. They let me go. After that, I didn't get another job, and I struggled, and eventually I lost my house, and my family dipped. My girl and kids left because they had a place to go. I called my folks and asked my mom, I was like, hey, I was like, you know, I lost my house, I lost everything. Can I come stay at home? And my mom, she says to me, she says, I'm sorry, baby, your dad says no, you can't come home. So I was like, so that's it? She's like, I'm sorry. And then she just hangs the phone up on me. And I was kind of like left to kind of ponder that whole message, like, what the hell do I do now?
Right.
You know? I haven't talked about this in a long time.
That's really
So-
hard. Yeah.
I mean, to be fucking
Yeah.
fair, dude. If they fired you for like the retro thing, like genuinely, not to interrupt, but it's like, isn't it funny how the thing that you feel passionate about tends to be the one thing that people that don't believe in you
Yeah.
immediately are like, that's the gayest thing ever, and it's like, well, it's this too. You know what I mean? It's like, you need to go. Goodbye. So you get the call, and then
Yeah.
where do you go from there?
So after that, I am living in my car for a period of time, and I'm just making ends meet as best as I can. I have a couple friends. My friend Nicole helped me out, and my friend Robbie, one of my best friends, took me in, allowed me to couch surf for a while until I basically got back on my feet. And I used to make ends meet at the flea markets, and I started saving up money that I could until I got enough money to get my own little room inside of a house rental. And this was my first time ever living with roommates. And I lived in a house with like 5 other guys, and it was just as you can imagine in here.
Yeah.
How old were you?
I was 32,
Okay.
and everybody I was living with was like in their 20s.
20s?
Yeah.
So the place was usually a disgusting mess.
Dynamic is way different.
It
Lots of
is.
drinking.
Yeah.
Lots of drinking, lots of
Yeah.
smoking, lots of late
Smoking,
nights,
yeah.
lots of partying, lots of things that I didn't fucking
Telling
do.
kids to keep the racket down.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
young whippersnappers,
yeah.
quiet down in there.
Dudes in the bathroom, keep your kissing down to a minimum. It's distracting me.
So I stayed in the master bedroom where I kept things clean and organized as I like to be, and I started having to sell off my personal effects just to pay rent, just to get by, right? And I started selling off my games, and once I started selling my games, I came into a message from Craigslist, when Craigslist was more of a thing back then.
Right.
And I had sold, believe it or not, we were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
I sold some a Neo Geo.
Oh shit.
2,500 roses, please.
Yes. Yeah. I sold a Neo Geo back then, and for the collectors out there, if you're curious as to what kind it was a US AES Gold system with Magician work, complete in box, with all paperwork, memory cards, everything.
Oh,
It is
fuck.
it is considered the #1 top collectible right now for Neo Geo.
Really quick,
Yeah.
what is a Neo Geo for those of us who don't know?
Neo Geo was an arcade perfect home console created
Yes.
by SNK back in 1990. You could literally have the exact 1-to-1 replica arcade experience in a cartridge at home.
Yeah.
But when the system launched back then, I want to say it was like $1,000.
Yeah, they were like $1,000, and like
1990.
the
You can
cartridges alone
200.
were like, yeah,
And this is 1990 month.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
So by inflation,
Wow.
most games would have been about $400 or $500. The system would have been about $2,000.
So you're like, listen, we're gonna play some. What was it? A Nat Geo?
No, Neo Geo.
Neo Geo.
Okay, Nat Geo.
Not National Geographic. There's not titties
It
on
has
this
some
one,
wildcats on there.
Yeah, it was a Nat Geo from Shuba Shuba. And then,
Inokushio.
yeah. So the Ku Klux Kushia, and it was that, and then you're like, I'm gonna play a laser disc while I have the 8-track going. Where you going, baby?
So I respond to this guy's Craigslist message. He wants to buy the Neo Geo I have listed, and I have it up for $700. He offers me $600 plus some trade. And I'm like, I don't really know what I'm going to do in trade-in, but at least I'll hear him out. And he was in Sacramento, so I drove up to his house. His name's Chris.
Hey.
I haven't talked to
Son of a bitch.
I haven't talked to him in a long
You and your
time. but
Nat Geo.
Last I had heard, he's still doing well. And that meeting was very fortuitous because when I met him, it was later in the evening, and he opens up the garage door, and inside his garage, it looks like a small store, like repair work, all kinds of stuff that he does. And he's like, oh, I sell games and stuff on the side, just for fun, and makes a little extra money. I'm like, okay, cool, I like this. I can vibe with that. He gives me $600 and a copy of Kirby's Dream Land 3 for Super Nintendo, and then I'm on my way. And I leave, and I jump on Craigslist while driving. You could text and drive at the time; it's perfectly legal. and I message this ad. I see this ad up in Modesto for a complete in box copy of Earthbound, and it's $275. Now to this day, Earthbound goes for like $3,000 or so. I haven't checked
Jesus.
recently. Very expensive. It was very expensive back then, but $275 was a drop in the bucket compared to what its actual value was.
Absolutely.
So I'm thinking about, well, if I get this Earthbound, I can sell it for a little more. I can pay some more bills and continue to try to get myself further up the ladder. So I send a message to the Craigslist ad, and it's one of those relay messages.
Right.
No
You
phone
can't-
number.
yeah.
You can't message
Mm.
direct. You have to wait for response. I don't hear anything for 3 days. And then when the third day hits, it's a Friday. And this mom messages me or calls me, and she's like, "Hey, are you messaged about the Earthbound?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "We can meet you tomorrow at Safeway in Modesto off of, I forget what road it was, 11 a.m. I was like, "Okay," and like, "What's your name?" And click, hangs up on me. And so I
Left
was
in the
like,
dark.
all right, so I talked with one of my friends, and I was like, "Hey, you want to go with me to Modesto to go pick up Earthbound?" And he's like, "Sure, why not?" So
Yeah, gotta go
yeah,
strap.
you gotta go. You gotta go. So we go out there, and it's a mom and maybe a 10 or 11-year-old kid, right? And he's got the Earthbound, and I was like, "Hey, I'm supposed to meet with you." Hand him $275. Everything's there. And as we're walking away, my buddy goes back. He's like, just curious. He's like, "I gotta know, like, what did you spend on this thing?" He's the kid sitting there counting his cash. He's like, $10 at a yard sale. And I was like, "Damn, kid got me." I says, "But I'm about
Fuck.
to come up too, though."
Right.
Beat the shit out of him. Yeah.
Shut up, bitch.
Exactly. Kirby's Dream Land 3 this.
3 fists.
Yeah, exactly.
So I head back to my place, and I post the Earthbound on Craigslist for sale, and I start getting messages immediately.
Oh, I bet.
People want everything in pieces. Nobody wants to buy the whole thing. They're like, "I want this, I want that." I'm just answering all these inane messages, and it's pissing me off. And then eventually I get a message from a guy up in Sacramento, of all places, yet again. He says, "Hey, I have the game. I want to buy everything else, though." He says, "But I don't want to spend all the cash I got." He's like, "Would you take this much cash, and I can put this much trade on top of it?" And I'm like, "I don't really sell games I was just trying to sell stuff to get by, right?" He's like, "Well, you could sell this stuff." I was like, like a game store. I was like, "I'm not a game store." And he responds to me, he's like, "Well, you could be."
I love it.
You could be. And I
He planted the seed.
Yeah.
so I didn't really think of it too much, but I was like, what have I got to lose? And something that Doom and I were talking about earlier is always trust my gut, right? Because it doesn't lie to me, So we make this deal. He comes down to Stockton. We meet up at a Starbucks, and he brings out 3 big tubs of games, consoles, all kind of stacks of Game Boys.
Really?
I turned away a Vectrex because I didn't know what the fuck it was.
Oh,
my
I literally
God.
turned it away. I didn't know what it was.
What is a Vectrex?
A Vectrex is it's an early 80s, like 1982 or
Yeah.
83. It's like a mini arcade console that uses vector graphics. Like, you have to see it in person to really understand the visual representation of what this machine can do. It's black and white, but it's fucking impressive as hell. I wish I could describe it better, but you have to experience what a Vectrex is to really. It looks like a little mini arcade. The lights are so intense, but it's just loud. It's like a little mini arcade that's just in black and white, and it's just cool as shit. So, by the time I didn't know, so I turned it away. He's like, "Well, you sure you don't want it?" He's like, "I'll keep it." He's like, "I'm not gonna charge you extra." I was like, "Yeah, I don't want it."
I will never regret this day.
So dumbass me did not know any better. Anyhow, I come back with all this stuff, and I'm loading into my room. The roommates are seeing what I'm doing, and I'm standing in the room, and I got this puzzled look, and I'm just staring down at like all these totes. And one of my friends walks by, one of the roommate guys. He's like, "Hey man, what's up?" I was like, "What you doing with all the game stuff?" He's like, "You trying to start a store or something?" And I look over at him. I was like, "You know what? I think I am." And that's kind of how it all started, with the idea of selling games. And so from there, I had talked to Trong and a couple other friends about starting a game store. And first thing we do is like, well, we come up with all these ideas, because he was still working at the other game store that had let me go. He had a lot of ideas that were very much in line with like the things that we saw that were wrong that we wanted to correct, because we're very passionate people about, like, we care about the community. We want to do better than what we were taught.
Right.
So he comes up with the idea. He's like, well, what if we call it Retrofix? I was like,
Good name.
yeah, that's a really good ass name. And so he designs the logo and our first business cards and everything, and that's how we get it started. But shortly after that, he's living in Stockton this time. He moves to San Jose. I'm actually one of the people that helps him move to San Jose. Me and another friend. He moves out to San Jose, and so he disappears for a period of time. I don't see him. This is like 2012, like early 2013 is where I'm at now. I'm trying to remember a lot of this stuff because there's a lot of ups and downs that happen. So during that period of time, there was a lot of me going to flea markets, selling on Craigslist. I spent a lot of time watching these flip your house type shows, learning how to stage things, create positive presentation to gain interest in what you do. And the way I would look at it is like, we had this place in Stockton. It was a really good Mexican restaurant. The drive-through was open to like 1 a.m., but no pictures. It's just letters, just like the old school like driving style tacked on letters of like this item, this price. Nothing incited like an appetite. But then you go to McDonald's and you see all these pictures, all this thing. It's like, damn, that's all making me hungry or whatever. And so like, I want to buy here. And I did the same thing with games. So when I look at Craigslist, people would just take a picture of an item on a dirty ass carpet and like click, and it's all blurry as shit. It's a poor description. I wrote out really detailed stuff. So I watched 3 shows. I watched a lot of the Flip Your House. So I learned about staging, presentation, Bar Rescue. John Taffer, one of my absolute idols. The way the guy's mind thinks is on another fucking level. It's all about how do you capture market? Where's your money you put to bring in the most value? And Gordon Ramsay, that everyone has an opportunity to learn and change their bad habits and become better than what they currently are. So I took all these tenets and I started to put them together and make out what the Retrofix brand was going to be. So I started with Craigslist. I had 2 small boxes of games I would sell out of. And I traveled up and down the Central Valley going to different stores. And I stopped by the store in Turlock. And I saw everything that they did. And I took all this information in. And I went to another store and another store and another store and another store. And I basically just took everything positive and negative and learned from all those things.
Right.
And so I started to just put an amalgamation of information together into like what I wanted to do. And then my 2 boxes of games grew into like 20 boxes of games. And then after that, I started working at the flea markets, and I started to grow my brand. And what people see now in Retrofix, clean, bad games, tagged, buffed out, I was doing this in my flea market days, which put me levels
Above everybody else.
Yeah.
Now, Stockton, the Central Valley, is predominantly Hispanic.
Yeah.
I am Hispanic, but I speak no Spanish. And when you don't speak Spanish, when you don't speak Spanish and you're surrounded by Spanish-speaking Hispanic people, you get hated on.
Oh, yeah.
No Salo kids.
Yes.
That's all of us are looking at each other.
Yes.
It's happening right now.
Yeah, we're all.
Yeah. Come on.
So as I sold the flea market, I would see what these other guys would sell stuff for. FIFA, soccer, Mario games were 3 or 4 times their value. And here I am offering a better product for less price. And they started to really dislike my presence. The difference was I got into an argument with one of them one time. It's like, well, you come in here, you sell games, and, you know, you try to take business as a, hey, look, there's a difference between you and I is that you've been, he's like, well, I've been here for a long time. And that's the difference between you and I. I don't plan to be here for a long time. I plan to be in a store soon. You can stay here for the next 10 years all you want. I really don't care. I'm not going to be here in a few years because I'm going to continue to grow. I'm not happy staying in one place forever. I got to keep growing. So that was kind of my stance. So it was all them versus me during the flea market days. And then after that, flea market was growing, and I basically moved up in my rental. I rented a house, and I had a room dedicated to like a little mini store. By this time, we're in like 2015, 2016 maybe. I can't remember exactly when. But during this time period, I ran into my old boss from the gamer store in Lincoln Center. And I had a lock on Retro. And he comes up to me, we talked. He's real friendly. And he apologizes to me. He says, you know, I'm sorry I didn't listen to you.
Fuck that guy.
He says, I'm sorry I didn't listen to you. You had an idea that was just too far ahead of what we were all thinking. And this is, again, like we were talking earlier, I trust my gut. and the path isn't always clear, but it's a path I know I need to take, and I've always managed to get where I need to be or where I'm supposed to go because I trust in that, because I trust in who I am as a person, right? So I want to say probably about 6 months, 8 months later, he passes.
Oh man.
He passes, and it's unfortunate. Like I said, he was a real nice guy to me, but nonetheless, life goes on. I bought that store, the one that let me go. I went and bought all the inventory, everything.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Dang.
Buried him in sand.
Yeah. Put a little retro cartridge on the top for the tombstone.
Yeah, you went up to a tombstone. You're all, well, I guess it doesn't work.
Oh, damn, that's
Puts it back
I
in.
still gotta drive home.
You'll be okay.
You gonna put the curse on me?
Don't you put that curse on me, Ricky Bobby! Don't you put that curse on me! Yeah. He's are you there? Shabu Shabu? Take me. I talk so well about you tonight. When it comes to that, right? Isn't it funny, because we were talking about this earlier. Dadpool and myself were talking about an acquisition that's come my way, possibly. And the opportunity is to buy out a very heavy inventory of manga, which does really well. And you and I were talking about it when we were gallivanting around the town. And just the idea.
I don't get to gallivant often.
No,
And when I do,
I vent
He does
a
it
very
with a
big
big
gala. Yes, because my galas get very venty. But the crazy part is, like, when you look at your predecessors, right? From a video game and a comic guy, and we're both into like heavy art.
yeah,
You look at people that have done something for so long that they're like, this is exactly how it fucking goes. There's no other way that this could go. And it starts kind of like decreasing. I had this conversation with a friend this morning, a tattoo artist, where, excuse me, the joke was, we've both been doing this for almost 20 years. And it's like our entire lives have like, just stop doing these little fucking like bangers and stop doing all these like crazy little small pieces. We're trying to get better and do these really big things. And then we can finally do them. And then out of nowhere, all kids want today are little bangers, and you're like, oh, god damn it. So the crazy part is like, it's good to have the knowledge to do something, but are you flexible and malleable into understanding what the market is?
yeah,
You know, like, it's cool to do retro stuff because technically we are the retro version for comic books here, because no other shop goes as heavy as we do when it comes to like the silver golden age stuff.
yeah.
But if that's not what's selling, okay, what was the thing that helped us? TCG.
Yeah.
And the boys, especially as now they are called, thank you,
The
Rodrigo, the Magic Order. Thanks to the order themselves, they came in and took a lot of time to be patient, to like teach myself, teach the boys, teach Sanzu. They taught a lot of people, like, hey man, just have a good time.
Yeah.
But you have to, as an owner, be around people to be like, fuck, man, look at how well that would have done had they not got pig-headed.
Yeah.
And there's something different about our generation. Every generation does have its specialty, but I really think there is something different about our generation that saw a really good work ethic and reserve for temperament at some point,
Yeah.
but they had no healing. And now we're in a position where it's like, you do what you're doing and you're taking over that store, and all of a sudden it's like, well, okay, I don't want to do better than them because I'm not trying to erase that person. I want to be better for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Right.
And that shows in your work.
Yeah. The goal is always to be better than the person you were yesterday.
Absolutely.
So after I had acquired all the inventory from the store and the business itself collapsed, I moved on and continued to sell through online services, through locals, and eventually up to GameSwaps. Now, I did have another store that had I was helping out, and they had been there for a long time. I'm not going to name who, but I helped out for a lengthy period of time to show them some ideas that maybe once you've been sitting in your room for a long time and everything's kind of a mess, to you, you start to normalize it, but to everybody else looking on the outside in, it's not normal. And so
Say
I've,
something, I fucking dare you. You want your job, don't you? Like I said, healthy beginnings. Go ahead.
I'm trapped.
so
I'm trapped.
so I go offer my help over there, and I start to see the store start to, like, new life starts to breathe into this guy, and he's doing better. And he's like, hey, because you're helping out, I'll allow you to sublet a space here, and people can buy games from you, they can buy games from me. It'll be good because, like, I put a lot of work to clean his fucking store. Like, it was bad. We're talking like 9+ years of just build up and no maintenance, just getting by, just pushing shit out the way versus like putting it away. And after he
Sounds
started
familiar.
after he started to see how well I was doing and that people were more receptive to my customer service because he was really dry and blunt. I was very friendly, approachable, engaging, and I would upsell an item. If you came in looking for one item, I'm going to sell you 3. That's the job of a salesman. I'm not a cashier. I am a salesperson, and I absolutely kill at doing this kind of stuff. I love it. I'm a talker. He starts to get jealous. He doesn't like the fact that now I'm generating more income than he is on the daily, right? And it's something I said earlier. I says, everyone loves you until they hate you,
Right.
and then they copy you.
Yep.
And that's what happens. I've been loved and I've been hated and I've been copied by more people than I can recall.
Well, then that guy's a fucking idiot because he could have copied on how to sell 3 times better, but apparently he didn't do it.
He
Good
did
job.
it. He did it. He waited till I bought him too. So
Well, actually, Sacred 8 has some inventory you may want to look at. Like, you
So-
see it? Freedom.
so
Fucking freedom.
the thing is
Relief.
the thing is that I didn't set out to envelop these people. These people saw an opportunity to align themselves with me until it became let me use him.
Right.
And then when they tried to use me is when I ate them. And that's what a wolf does. A wolf turns those things into prey. And I know that sounds like a dickish thing, but
No.
these people were trying to take advantage of me
Yeah.
in the worst fucking way possible. He eventually offered me half the store and told me what the rent cost was going to be. He's like, this is the split. And I ended up accidentally running into the owners of the building themselves. And I asked them, hey, what is the rent here? And it was the amount he told me that was half. He was trying to screw me. I can't
Yeah, he was trying to get over on you.
I can't stand deceptive natures. But yeah, his store went under, bought his inventory, and then I took that and I started doing game swaps, traveling. And then this is kind of when Trung kind of came back into the fold. Now,
Okay.
he was living still in San Jose, he's still out there. I'm in Stockton still, and we're communicating, via text, phone call, and making everything work the way we can. We start going on the road together, traveling all over the West Coast, Midwest, going to game show after game show after game show, building up our inventory until it becomes massive and we're making money. We get an opportunity to work with one of the game swaps we go to in San Jose, and they have this really great location, right? And eventually they ended up moving out of that location and didn't have a place where they're going to next, which was unfortunate. I really like that place a lot. After they had left, I want to say maybe 6 months to a year went by. We're going back to the convention scene, myself and Tron, we're traveling. And we get a phone call from one of the from one of the employees over there at the old place. And says, hey, got a business opportunity for you. You might want to come out and meet. So we go out there and we talk with them, and they're offering an opportunity to sublet a space within their business, which is where I'm currently at now. And we take it, but there's about a year of delays that go on. Now, during this period of time when this offer comes in is when my parents have fallen ill, and within like 6 months, both of them will have passed. And so my parents never actually got to see me achieve any level of what I would consider my success, if you can call it that. I never feel like a successful person. I feel like a person's always in progress.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
chasing success. I've never achieved it,
Yeah.
right? But again, people on the outside looking in might say different.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I feel that with my dad. I mean, when my cousins came, and this is when we did the first renovation, where this was just a giant L shape, like this was not built yet.
Yeah.
And one of my cousins came in here, who was about your age, a little bit, probably closer to your age. He was
Yeah.
like 54, so he's a little bit older. But he goes, "Did your pop see this place?" And I was like, "Nah, he passed before I got it." And he goes, "This motherfucker would have been bragging about you." And as much as my dad never really said much about me, never said much to me,
Same.
it was that thing of like, you knew where it lies. And
Yeah.
I think that's the hard part about when you own a place, is people have this notion that you are invincible or you have some kind of leadership skill, and the reality of it is like, it's like going into a Verizon store,
Yeah.
right? And you're like, what can I afford? The iPhone or a Samsung Galaxy. Okay, but you could get the iPad. Yeah, but that's an extra payment. But you could get 2 iPads. I'm like, you're right. You know what I mean? Like, can you afford it? We'll figure it out. It kind of feels like you don't have a real grasp on things,
Yeah.
because there's no time to be human when you're being a boss. And when you need to be human, the good old state of California reminds you, we're going to tax that.
Well, state of California is good. Reminding everyone's their bitch.
Yes, absolutely.
We work for them.
There has been a few questions that people have asked like throughout the pod, but like when this time was happening, the family things and so forth. I'm asking this generally for myself. Isn't it funny, like how are your parents alive?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, your parents
Yeah.
are
My
alive.
parents, yeah.
Okay, fucking. All right.
Our parents are gone.
Oh yeah,
The
Midnight
orphans.
Society. Woo!
The Midnight Orphan Society.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pity me, buy stuff.
The Orphan Order.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You remember when your parents were alive? Pepperidge Farm.
Pepper Farms, remember us?
Yeah, kind of remembers. I remember your father owed me money. I'm all, well, that's not my dad.
That's not my dad.
But isn't it funny how like did you ever mourn your parents passing? Like, did you mourn when they did?
I did. Similar to what you're saying about your dad, he didn't. My dad didn't really spend a lot of time talking with me. He spent occasional time talking to me.
Yeah.
Right. And this is what made me different with my own sons. That I spent a lot of time listening to them first before I give them advice. You know, it's a very different relationship. I love my dad. My dad was a great person. It's just who he was and how he was, and I just have to accept that that's the person he is and
Yeah.
was. A lot of times he, like I said, when I was going through the hardships and looking back then in 2012 and trying to understand why he said no, you can't come back home. It took me years upon years to let that anger subside until I did come back home, but only because I was needed. Because now their health is failing and now they need me. So I had to put, what did you say earlier about pride versus the path?
Oh yeah, path before pride. For a young man burns every path for his pride, and an older man sees only one path left at his side.
Yeah.
You know, you become a resource, and a young person becomes very angry. I think all of us here have had to work with shit with our like parents and stuff. But like, mourning for me worked differently. When my dad passed, my wife had called me like on a Friday, and I remember I had to do like a new inventory for something, and I remember looking at stuff, and I was like, "Well, we got to get it done." And I never cried. I never got upset about it at the time. Nothing. But I had the tattoo while watching the front desk, because this is before I met you.
Yeah.
Years before I met you, and so I was literally tattooing in this little room, and then I'd hear somebody go, "Okay, I'll be right there." You know, just trying to make it work. And then, you know, we go to make our stencils. And I'd have a moment where I'm making a stencil for the tattoo, and I'm like, and then all of a sudden, oh man, I fucking love this book. You're the guy who you got it for me, bro. And you're like, hey man, cool. And then they fucking walk out the door after they've just had a great experience, and it's like 2 minutes before my new appointment, and I'm like, you have moments of not just humility, but you have that path and that focus that you need to have, because it's really hard to find joy when you're too busy selling it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's such a weird niche thing to do, because if you're not that close with somebody that you need to be close with, and how you interact with your kids, how you interact with, well, you're all fathers here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I have nieces, and the difference between my position with my nieces and you with your kids is I can give them back. You know what I mean? So I'm put my hands in the fist, I'm gonna go. But
Darned.
my pull-out game is strong, Eric. But the crazy part is like you said it perfectly. You said something earlier on our carriage ride.
Gallivanting.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
And so we were. What?
Gallivanting.
Yes, it's
Just
a real
take-
word. Can you spell that shit?
I don't think it's so much spelling. I think he's watching. He's visioning.
Yeah, I'm
two of us-
envisioning it.
two of us
And I can
prancing
see
along.
the fucking window down, and then there's fucking little grandma things just fucking, and they're like
First
this.
and foremost,
They're
it's a
like this
change
the
of
whole
oppression,
time.
Okay. The change of oppression. Many years.
Pressing
I've
the
never
food, the chains of food.
Yeah, exactly. I've never got a. They never picked me for dodgeball. Why?
But they picked me to eat.
Yeah, exactly. Funny enough, remind me to say something later about it. But there is, I got picked out of kindergarten to be part of a lunch program. Yeah, we'll talk about that after. But we were talking about just you had said something earlier about like how you view not only like your kids but like work and stuff. But you had brought up a point, something along the lines of, having to refocus who and what is in your life. And
Yeah.
what's crazy is that most of our parents spent their entire lives being fucking miserable next to somebody,
Yeah.
or not doing what they wanted, but god damn it, did they do their best for us, even if it wasn't the best.
Right.
And the best thing we can look back on is say like, fuck man, look at how you treat your community, look at how you treat your customers, look at how you treat your friends. And there's different levels of what you were raised by,
Yeah.
but how you interact and how you hold your own, the tenacity, when you say like it's a wolf thing, I don't see that as a dick thing. I see you as like when Evanescence starts playing and you're like tearing through your clothes, you're like, wake me up. Oh no, what's happening? Fucking Twilight. I'm on Jacob, no, he's imprinting on me. Blowing my cartridge. But I mean,
I just gallivanting.
don't make it weird, Eric. Homophobe.
Dude, I'm gonna listen to that song on the way back. Just laugh my ass off.
Driving back, he's a mushy shinabuya. Yeah, but I mean, honestly, I think a big thing with that is truly, I think we've all been mistreated in a lot of different ways. A lot of it makes us laugh, right? That's all you can fucking do is laugh, right?
Yeah.
But when you have power, and I'm talking about genuine fucking power where you can control a yes or no situation for a client, for a customer, for an individual, for a community that all of us have in some form or fashion, you have the power to make or break somebody's ideology of what makes them that little bit better of themselves.
Yeah.
And it's nice because had you been given that power at 20, would you have utilized it the way you do now at 40?
No.
No,
No.
me, if I
Yeah.
would have had this place, I would have run it to the fucking ground.
Well-
What do you mean nobody wants Twilight New Moon fucking t-shirts?
And that's just the thing when it comes to age versus experience. And this is a conversation I had with my oldest, and he's like, Dad, I try to carry myself a lot like you. Everything I learned from my oldest son. I mean, all my kids are really smart children, but I said there's a difference that you won't be able to replicate me because your age has not allowed you the experiences yet. And that's just it. And it takes time to develop that wisdom because you can go in hot-headed to any situation and react with pride first, just as we talked about. Or you can decide that, you know what, I'm going to take a different path that leads me to better, more fruitful outcome.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's okay, like you had also mentioned something like, what was it? I'm this is over, but I'm not done with you.
Oh yeah. Somebody earlier this week had asked me about a situation that happened with a friend, or a former friend, I should say, and that like many people. There's been a lot of people that are, and I'll spill beans. the one time I won't let the food get away from me.
The kids say tea nowadays.
Did I say what?
They see tea. You gotta spill the tea.
Oh, you gotta spill the tea?
Yeah.
I'm all, oh no, forgive me, Shinabuyu.
I want to put out there. I'm sorry, Simone. They're fucking butchering Kino Kuni.
Who the hell's Simone?
Simone
He looked at you
is
so fast. He's like,
He's like,
Simone
you
is
fat motherfucker. You're letting the wolf out.
she's
this place.
no, Simone worked with me at the Retrofix for a while, and she's the one that introduced me to mangas and
Right.
stuff like that. I owe all that thought process to her because it was really her idea, like, to do that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And so she would take me there and just kind of like, it became a weekly thing. We get coffee and go to the manga store. She'd pick out books for me. I'd pick out books for her. And I actually started enjoying something new because of that. So she loves that store a lot.
Her name one more time?
Simone.
Simone.
I
Shout out to you.
Yes.
Oh, he actually got a name right.
Simone. I'm all Shimon.
Shimon it.
I call her Simone. Simone.
So now I'm the
I can say it because this is just me being funny.
It's like your N-word, but for her. All right. Good night, everybody. No,
She's gonna kick me in the balls after.
I think I can live with that. But I feel like the crazy part about growing up, right, is so you have some questions here that are coming up, but I do want to finish on at least the note of that, because it not finish in the sense of like,
We could take a pause on that.
not
one,
even a
'cause
pause, just like integrate why that stuff affects us.
Okay.
Right.
Because the thing I was saying is, so I've had a lot of people here at the shop. There's been 3 renditions of the crew, and each one are genuinely fucking good people.
Mhm.
But goddamn, are they terrible at following through?
Sometimes, yeah, they are.
Absolutely, and in this case, all times they are.
Yeah.
And I know that hurts feelings because
Yeah.
it's like, well, am I not good enough? As a friend, we're absolutely cool.
Yeah.
Professionally, we're not.
Yeah.
Because I had to hold up, and I'm holding up, a house payment.
Yeah.
You know, a legitimate price of a current California home to keep this place going. You have real problems too.
Yeah, I do. I hold down a lot to try to protect my people, and a lot of them, they don't know the shit that I go through to maintain it for them.
Move back for
You
life.
know.
Right.
You know.
But I feel like that's where I was talking to my friend about it, and I said, you know, because he asked, he goes, "You don't ever seem angry." I go, "I'm not. I'm genuinely not angry. I'm done with them, but I am not finished."
Yeah.
Right.
Because to be done with something is like, I'm done with the stress of it or the idea of the stress, but I am absolutely not finished with that situation or that individual. And I think you have to have that mindset because it's compartmentalization. My father murdered people. My dad did 40 years in prison, in and out. Like, he was not a good person for a chunk of his life. When I got him, he was already at like 40% life. You know, so I was he was like, "I think I can live a good life," and I was like, "Woo! What's going on, motherfucker? I got you for 13 whole years." Fucking Macho Man Randy Savage. You want to know what's great about the British? What's that? I'm on a teabag.
I'm a wrestling where I love Macho Man.
He's like, "Oh yeah,
I am the cream. Yeah, the cream rises to the top.
see right there, my man." And so, I mean, the cool thing about that is like when I looked at my father for a long time, he got me into everything. He got me. I speak so well of him because the world never did.
Yeah.
But that was his own goddamn fault. But I love the idea of it because one day your kids will not speak the great of you either because they see you at your worst.
Yeah,
But they know you at your best too.
they do.
And I feel like if I never truly, because I just posted up the book of the week on the Brushes of Doom stuff, and like I talked about my dad, where my mom was like, the one thing you can't watch in this house, wrestling.
And porn.
And no, she was ironically she was cool with that, you know. Fucking, but not wrestling. No, fucking.
My mom used to talk shit on me watching wrestling.
That's what my mom was doing. She's like, "What are you, gay? Oh, look at you little fairy guys." I don't know. My mom's from the
Bro,
Bronx.
so during a funny little story I just want to throw in here.
Sure.
During my mom's last year, this is after my dad had passed. I was sitting there with this girl that I was very much fanciful for. I liked her. She was fun, and we were hanging out, and no girl has ever that I ever dated ever got to meet my mom. It's kind of a big deal.
Of course.
You know,
Yeah.
a lot of us guys understand it's
Yep.
you don't introduce them to mom unless like you feel like they're
don't like
they're
our
the
moms.
one.
Yeah, no, like
But we get
whatever.
it.
Yeah.
We get that.
So I had brought her over there, and I was going to introduce her. And before I could take her to go introduce her, my mom comes in on her little squeaky walker. And I'm in there watching wrestling. She's like, "You watching this garbage again?" And my mom comes, sits down between the two of us.
Yeah.
My mom's 83 at this point, right? She sits down between the two of us, stares at TV, and just starts talking shit. I was like, look at my mom. I'm so fucking embarrassed at this point. And she's like, just watching them beat each other. She's like, "Oh, this is just stupid. Why do you watch this garbage?"
She was your own mystery
And
sensitivity.
so,
Yeah.
so the girl I was talking to, she was just laughing. She's like, "Your mom's hilarious." I'm like, "I'm so sorry. I'm so embarrassed." She's like, "No, it's fine." And I was embarrassed as hell at the time, but now looking back, like that's a story. That's an
Yeah.
experience,
Yeah.
you know. And to touch base, like for those who don't know, some people know, some people don't. I was adopted. So my parents came from that generation, the silent generation, where you put your head down and work. You don't really express a lot of emotions.
Yeah.
That's what I got. The people that rescued me from my biological mother and father, my mother tried multiple times to kill me when I was young. That's what put me into the system.
Mm.
My dad dipped out on me. My father dipped out on me at a very young age. Didn't give two shits about what happened to me. So I lived in halfway homes, orphanages until I was 7.
Wow.
Until later on, eventually, luckily got adopted. I was in foster care for a long time, getting bounced around from place to place to place. So I grew up with a lot of hurt and feeling of being unwanted, scars and fucking wounds that to this day have never healed.
Mm.
So I'd struggle with a lot of like one-on-one feeling alone a lot of times. And I think too that's what's helped me cultivate such a big community, because I know what it feels like when
Yeah.
somebody needs you there
When you're ostracized.
and
Mhm.
nobody is fucking there for you.
Yeah.
So I've had situations where I've stopped helping customers in line because I'm having a conversation one-on-one and I can see another person breaking down based upon what I'm saying. And I've stopped and gone out and give guys hugs,
Yeah.
give my phone and was like, "Hey, you need to talk, I'll be your friend.
Yeah.
I'll be there for you." And I make those genuine connections because I've always wished somebody would do that for me.
Yeah.
And I just don't see it happen very often. I'll have friends that I'll reach out to, I'll invite people, I'll do a lot of things, but that's not reciprocated to me.
Yeah.
You know, like you invited me out here
Yeah.
and we just met.
Yeah.
I've had friends I've known forever who didn't invite me to do shit.
Yeah, I don't
ever.
invite them to anything.
Ever.
I've known them a long time.
Ever.
They're better than me.
And so
Look at them in the eyes and say you're better.
and so for me, I'll
breakfast means nothing to you.
I'll keep putting the way I feel aside
Yeah.
to do for others
Yeah.
in hopes that, you know, that will someday maybe come back. And, you know, I trust my gut. A lot of times people do fucking let me down. I would say 9 times out of 10 people let me down. And I have this saying that says, like, I'm waiting for you to prove me right.
Yeah.
Because I already know you're going to fail me. Because I know you're not going to put in what I'm going to put in. So I tend to run solo a lot of times in what I do. The only time that I'm on and out in front of my people is when I'm working and I'm being who everybody needs me to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
But then when those lights go off, those doors shut, like I'm back to who I really am, the solo version of myself. And I'm trying to become more content and comfortable with being alone and not trying to hope that somebody will be there, will follow through.
Right.
I've had relationships fail because they're very one-sided, and I'm just so over giving so much of myself to people who don't know how to appreciate who I am. And I've become more comfortable with letting go, and
Yeah.
that was forced upon me. And now I'm actively taking a role of walking away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just go silent and just walk away. I won't give you a reason. You can figure it out, but you probably don't give two shits.
May I give you some perspective? if
Sure.
you don't mind? Sure.
Sure.
We just had this conversation yesterday. So Eric and I go, and we were working hard. And well,
They
you-
weren't gallivanting.
Yeah, no.
You
gallivanted
without me?
Yeah, exactly.
How dare you?
Yeah, we were shallowanting.
Yeah.
And I was telling him
Getting
that
stuck in line.
What is that?
Yeah. Oh, you'll know. Oh shit! But we were talking about stuff because I think that's where I fit in, where I am like the community. Like I'm like a very angry Buddhist, right? People come here, you've seen it,
Shuba
you've seen
Shayu,
it. Yeah,
right?
I'm the shabu shabu. Of
Shabu Shia.
Yeah, I've
The
seen that.
sashimi.
Yeah, I'm
The
the shabu.
sashimi.
Yeah, I'm the shabu shabu of Seaside. And people come here, dude, and it's like a mecca trek for a lot of people to talk to me about life. And I don't feel like I have any answers. It's just more perspective. And I think that, I mean, I'm very grateful for it, but I will say this without trying to sound pretentious. But like when you and I went out and you were talking about how working here has kind of opened your eyes to a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Derek and I were talking about it, Hori, about it's the company you keep, but it's also the idea of you have 6 tables. As an artist, I truly believe, and I mean this for anybody in general, but an artist specifically right now, table 1 is a bunch of people that you truly call comfort and call home. So if I were to talk to myself and I asked you, who are the people that no matter fucking what, if you go home, you buy the best fucking food, you buy the fucking comfiest blanket, and you have the most openest weekend of your life, who are those people that are at that table? Whoever that is, that's table 1. That's the one that matters to you eternally. And the people you named were like 3 to 4 people.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Then table 2 are people that you work alongside very well. These are your peers, these are your equals, these are people that you push and push you. Then you have table 3. These are acquaintances that you meet through certain endeavors, and there's a push and pull. People that are higher, people that are lower, and that's what keeps you fresh onto things. Table 3, 4, and 5 are usually an amalgamation of interests that you sit with each other and you say, oh, this is video games, this is manga, and this is just shit I like. You know, if you love craft beer, there you go. You love Legos, there you go. And the best part about it is, when you sit in the center of all 6 of these tables, you ask yourself, the moment that you truly need to be left the fuck alone, or that you need to be comforted, or that you need time, not quantity, but quality itself. The people that are at those tables that you look at and would immediately acknowledge you and be, you got this, don't worry about it, I'll be here when you're back. Those are the ones that matter the most to keep at said tables. Everyone else, it's not a personal thing, it's something that they just, you vibe, like a coffee shop. Tea at fucking Acme.
Mhm.
She's this older British lady, the fucking salt of the earth. I love this woman with all my heart. Her and her husband are dope. But she's always talking shit to us, and she's always like, you boys doing good. And I'm like, yes, ma'am. That's right. That's my boys. And I feel like,
And then she tears you down.
yeah, I'm finally a mother that loves me.
And then she draws that little stupid picture on the fucking.
Yeah. Every
You're
time
like, oh, fuck, she
she's always
does.
drawing dicks. She knows I like my dicks. But in all, don't let the wolf out. Don't chew the bone.
Wake me up.
He's like, eat me up. Don't be a homophobe. And so, anyways, the crazy part about it is that, like, as much as I enjoy that person's company, outside of the interaction of that place, it is very little to rare I'll probably ever see this person. Not for any lack of effort, it's just the way the universe is.
Yeah.
And what is comforting about that, the higher you go, is you said something to me earlier that I really do believe in, and it's that, like, in the punk scene, this is very prevalent, and this is why I've always hated being part of scenes,
Yeah.
because everyone's always like, oh man, we're the underground, everyone's cool, and then one person makes it because everyone's trying to do it,
Right.
and when that person makes it, they fucking sold out.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
And there are dickheads for sure. I mean, we've all experienced
Yeah.
them. But truly, like, if you really want to be part of something, you should be excited. Those people at those tables that also that understand peace and time should also understand your wins. They look at you and they think, "Oh my God, fucking good for you, dude." And that refinement seems to go higher and higher and higher, sharper and sharper. But sharper metal is always thinner, never thicker.
Right.
So your circle gets smaller, but it is sharp and refined. The best part about people letting you down is it doesn't make you question if you should have tried harder. And people think, oh, so you're never going to have accountability. No, if you have accountability, truly,
Yeah.
when someone lets you down, you don't look at it as like, oh, you failed me. It's like, what are they going through?
Mhm,
You know
mhm,
what?
mhm.
I get it. The reason you don't have time for me is because there really is nothing between us. You know what? This isn't even about us. This isn't because you start trying to rationalize shit that
Yeah.
you never had growing up, and it becomes more apparent because you become somebody, especially at Retro, like it is here at Sacred, where people come to you and they fucking put everything on you,
Yeah.
and it's like, dude, bring it. I don't feel bad if you tell me about your woes. I love listening to
Yeah.
you. But when the doors are closed,
Yeah.
that all of a sudden the wolf comes back out of my I'm a woo. You know what I mean? And you know, real emotions, real life sets in. But you have to be proud of yourself, man. And I say this to a lot of people that like the beautiful thing about video games, okay? Genuinely right now, the video game that I am fucking digging the most have been for a long time. It's been a throw up between Cyberpunk and it's been a throw up between God of War. The new God of War. Cyberpunk is because like no matter what you do, I love everything about the music, the environment, the story, but nothing's ever a true happy ending. I was on the Nakama podcast, and I remember one of their members was like, "I hate that Edge Runners. There's so much violence," and I was like, "That's the point, bitch." Like the whole thing. Oh, I'm sorry, person. But the true thing is the person's argument, which was not a wrong argument, was like the kid didn't listen to his mom, and I go, yeah, but the mom was also wrong too.
Yeah.
She did terrible things to let that kid work and try to have an existence, but it got her caught up. And David did not listen. And what happens in Night City? Everybody gets their comeuppance.
Yeah.
There is no real like happy ending,
Yeah,
but that's
just
how
an
you.
ending.
It's just an ending, but
Mhm.
life goes on.
Mhm.
God of War happened for me when my dad passed, and that was a real big thing about how Atreus and him have their interactions with each other. And my favorite line out of the entire series of God of War is when Atreus is angry at Kratos, and he goes, "You don't even care that mom's gone, you know, like you don't even cry over her." And fucking Kratos steps out of the boat, and he's just like, "You grieve the way that you do. You leave me to mine," and it's quiet. Because I was that kid. You don't fucking know anything, old man. And my dad being like, boy, you know what I mean? Just fucking extremely in my face about it. And then having to be back of like, you know, now that I'm an adult and I have my nieces or I have my nephews and they're like, you don't understand anything. And it's like, you know what, man? One day you're going to realize how big of a disappointment you really are to yourself. And when that day comes, I hope you're a lot more forgiving to yourself than I was to me. That's the only reason why I care about you so much. That context in video games, I think, heals a lot of where we started. So, like, when you jump into video games, you had said something earlier. We're like, man, I came up, you're born 1980. Fucking, you came out the womb doing the electric slide. You're all, woo! You know what I mean? And because that time, video games, you were born 74.
Yep.
You guys came up in a time of video games where get your I remember because I get to see the old video games from the comic book ads,
Right.
And so I forget which one it is, but it's a baseball one. It's like, get your green circles against your blue triangles, and I'm like, oh, this sounds oddly like the South Side. And it's like, go against each other and make sure you take one out, each other out. I'm all, this is definitely a South Side thing. You know what I mean? I know exactly who those green motherfuckers are. And you're in a place where fun and competition and engagement was a real big thing.
Yeah.
What was your favorite video game as a kid when engagement was the focus, not story? Then what game, as anyone here, was your first one that really engaged story?
Well, that's actually good that you preface it with that, because when I grew up, games didn't typically have stories. They
Right.
weren't allowed to have stories because it took more memory
Yeah.
than games could afford. So me, I was born in 1980. So by the time the NES hit North America here, I want to say it was about 85. The time that I actually got to engage with a Nintendo was probably around 87. So I was 7 years old. That's the perfect age to be playing this and watch it naturally progress from Nintendo up to the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and so on and so forth. My number one game as a kid, the one that resonates with me most, it has to do with 1987. And it's because I grew up in the arcade scene. Arcades were immensely hot and popular. So you remember Supercade back in
You
in
talking
stock?
about the underground one?
Well, no, that was Oz.
Oh, Oz.
No,
that was Oz at Weberstown.
But
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
Oz is a good.
Really quick, sorry for anyone that's not listening, or anyone that is listening. You should be
How,
fucking
how would
listening.
they not be listening if they're
we're
listening?
watching. We're watching for that matter.
We'll find you. For everyone that is listening, both Sega and Dadpool grew up in Stockton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they are very familiar, and you guys are 6 years apart.
Yeah,
Yeah,
about
6
6 years.
So-
Yeah.
And we just met today.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. But what's beautiful about that is, like, what year were you born?
91.
Gross. And clip for the week. It's okay. I was born in '89. Technically, we're '80s
Yeah.
babies.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
fuck.
Well, so
But real quick, I'm sorry. The point I was making was, you guys grew up not only in the same era,
Right.
aware of things, but you grew up in the same area
Yeah.
Yeah.
of that thing.
yeah.
May I ask one thing?
Mhm.
You remember when they made the reversion, the continuation of Tron in Disney? And
Yes.
when Flynn goes into the actual
Flynn's
arcade and he
arcade,
starts
yeah.
playing
Yeah.
Journey and shit, was it really like that back then, where it was much more of an environment? Because most of what we grew up with
Mm-hmm.
was like golf land stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
We had a golf land.
We had golf
Yeah.
land.
But I'm saying that was really our only engagement, because Northridge had a small one for
They
a
had
while,
really small
but it
one.
felt like a golf land.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we had, I want to say at least 5 places in Stockton, at least I personally knew of. We had Supercade.
So where I'm trying to remember where Supercade was at.
It was on Fremont and Filbert, next
So,
to Yum
okay.
Yum Donuts.
Okay, so that's on the
East
that's on the
side.
east side of
East
Stockton.
side,
yeah. See,
yes.
I grew up on the what we'd consider that the north side.
Yeah.
Because
If you're near Lincoln, and
Lincoln.
stuff. So you had,
Yeah.
you had Naughty Nick's.
Naughty Nick's
you
for
had-
me.
So both malls.
Both
you had-
malls.
So both
Did,
malls.
what did Sherwood have at that
Tilt.
time? Tilt Arcade.
Yeah,
That's
the
right.
Tilt.
Because I worked
Which
at a
still-
Tilt.
Which still exists.
Really?
Yeah, still
Oh,
exists.
my
not,
God.
Not there, but the business.
Well, because
franchise,
I
the
remember
Tilt,
at one point after I left, because this is early this would have been 95, 97 was my time with Tilt Arcade, and I started at the Sherwood Mall,
Mhm.
and then I got promoted up to Sacramento, and I was working at Country Club and
Yeah.
at Sunrise Mall,
Oh.
and I even helped out a couple times at the, what's the one, Florin.
Mhm.
I helped out at Florin, but eventually I ended up having my own store, or my own arcade at Sunrise, and that was across the street from Birdcage Mall.
Wow.
So you had the Birdcage arcade over there, and like arcades was a big thing growing up. Like
it was.
for our age, again, because I'm 6 years older,
Yeah.
so my video games started with Atari,
Yeah.
Atari 2600
Yeah.
to 5200.
You're literally there at the
At the
perfect
right,
at the
at-
start of gaming.
like I remember Pong. I remember that was,
That was
the little
it.
like the only thing they had, and then I remember we got a 2600, and then I remember we didn't get a Nintendo. Like 85, it came out, we didn't get one.
Yeah, they were
And
hard to get.
86 is when we got our Sega Master System.
Yep.
Was real disappointed that Christmas because we were like,
Wanted Nintendo.
we wanted a Nintendo, but we got
They
the
were hard.
Sega Master System,
hard to
and
get.
they were hard to get. But at
Yeah.
the same time, like people were coming, all our friends were coming to our house to play Sega because it was
That
like
was normal.
that was like, well, dude, we don't have Nintendo, we don't have Sega. You guys at least have Sega, so let's come over
Everybody
there
would come over
and
your house and
Yeah.
hang out and play. So, yeah, my first game console was actually an Atari 7800.
7800. Yeah.
My sister had picked it at a flea market over on the what was known as Charterway.
Yes.
back at the
Yeah.
fairgrounds.
My grandparents owned a house over there
Yeah.
on that side.
She brought it home one day, and that's how I got started in games, was through that. But going back to the arcade, so yes, you were asking about, was it like something in Toronto? I could say there was one place that really had that look, and it was Oz.
Yeah. Yeah.
Underground Oz, because you would walk down to this like sub base from the mall, and then you walk in these double doors, and here it is, a 3-tier arcade
Yeah.
that wraps around like a baseball diamond. Like, here's this, and then boom, there's that, and then here's another layer that goes all the way around. And I remember this in about 91 when Street Fighter 2
Oh
Champion
my
Edition
God.
came in.
Yeah.
The whole top was
Top row.
24 machines of Street Fighter 2, and all you heard was Sonic Boom, the
Oh,
elephants.
you can.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
constant, and it was just, it was a beautiful thing because the arcades were just incredibly hot. Street Fighter literally just set the arcade scene on fire.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat had come out. All these games were emulating what Capcom was doing so well.
Right.
So arcades were just massive, massive popularity. But yeah, yeah, it was like that. Only Oz was like that though. Neon everywhere.
There was a
cool
place
shit.
in Stockton off of Hammer and West Lane, over by God. Remember Copeland Sports?
I do remember. Coco.
Okay, so it was like near a shopping center near there, and it was this place called Games People Play, and it was an arcade that all ages could go, but after like 9 o'clock, because they served alcohol there, it had a bar.
I don't think I ever knew about that.
Yeah,
place.
this was this would have had to been like 81, 82.
Oh yeah, I would have been 2.
No, I was, dude. I was.
Hey, you
Hey.
show you can.
Yeah,
Just a Boston accent out of nowhere.
yeah, always.
Yeah, 12 years old with the fucking cigarette and a natty ice, and you're, hey, you over there, show you can you.
Give me lunch money.
The store called the Shibuya Shoyuken. We'll carry all the Japanese books.
Yeah.
So the question again was, what was your first real game that you dove into?
Okay,
With no story, and then what game got you
That's
turned
easy.
onto a story?
At Chuck E. Cheese when it
Oh,
was
yeah.
over in Pershing, tucked in the back corner.
Yep.
Double Dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hands.
I was just gonna say that was.
Double Dragon, 1987. Like, I lived and breathed that shit. I drew it. I drew the characters. I wrote stories, fan fictions when I didn't even know what that was at the time. I would play Double Dragon as a kid with my other friends at school, lunch breaks,
Yep, yep.
recess time.
Christopher, quit wrapping your dick with his.
Yeah.
With their double dragon.
So I had an older brother, and during the late 70s, early 80s, martial arts
Yeah.
was fucking huge. Bruce
Yeah.
Lee was bigger than anything.
I remember Kung Fu Theater on Saturday afternoons,
it-
channel
it
2 or
was
36.
huge.
Yeah.
You are a Gen X.
Mhm.
I grew up with Gen X brothers and sisters. I'm at the tail end of 1980 and the beginning of the millennials. So I'm what you call like a zennial.
Yeah.
I have both powers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A
Pretty
Gen
much.
X attitude, but a zennial, like millennial mindset too.
Yeah.
So it works out. But yeah, martial arts was a big deal. Double Dragon.
Do you remember when they did Double Dragon with the Battletoads?
I did that. Yeah,
That was like
really
a
difficult.
big fucking
Yeah, it
deal
was.
too, man.
It was the first time you ever seen things like crossover.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Crossovers didn't happen. It happens all the time now.
Right.
But back then, you were just blown away.
Yeah.
What year would this be?
Oh shit, that'd have been like probably like 92.
Yeah. No, probably. Well, I would say probably closer to
Fuck.
89, 91.
Well, Super Nintendo and Nintendo got Battletoads and Double Dragon, but that wasn't until the early 90s. Super Nintendo had already been out, and they released it on Nintendo at the same time as multi-plat.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I remember the discussion about how the Amalgam universe had happened. So you had the multiverse with DC first, then you had Secret Wars with Marvel, and they did something in the early 90s where it's like, what would happen if you had
Batman with Wolverine.
yeah, Dark
Dark
Claw.
Claw.
What if you had Superboy with this, and it basically looks like our
Superboy
buddy
and
Samara.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
It
was-
basically looks like our buddy Samara, who just looks like a very, very chic lesbian. And you were like, huh, good for you.
Nice.
And that stuff started kicking in, and then for our generation, the first amalgamation was it's up to you and me, so happy together. And then it was the Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
Like
That was your guys' first big. That was the inner business crossover, Nintendo IPs against other Nintendo IPs.
right.
Yeah.
But to us, we were like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that was
There's
the
a
biggest
monkey
thing.
fighting a dinosaur. You mean like King Kong and Godzilla? No. This is way different. Yeah, but so you were a Double Dragon fan,
Mhm.
and
Still
then
am.
you are a Double Dragon fan.
I am Double Dragon.
Yeah, exactly. Until the movie came out, right?
Right.
The only memorable part in that movie was Alyssa Milano's ass.
Strong but bold choice.
Yes.
Yes.
Carry on. Carry on.
What is the first video game that prompted a story that really
For me, it was Lunar on Sega CD, which is the Silver
Oh.
Star story, which has actually just got announced for a complete remake, which is incredible. The game has been done many times, but that one literally had me in tears by the end. And I was probably about 11, 12 years old when that game came out.
What is it about?
It's a traditional JRPG about a young boy growing up in a little sleepy village who desires to be like his hero, the Dragon Master, and he's, there's a girl there he likes, and he sets off on a adventure with his friends to go make a name for himself to be like the hero he admires so much, only to find out that he is the one destined to actually take up the mantle of like the next Dragon Master. The girl gets kidnapped. He goes through hell to rescue her, and at the end he ends up fighting her because she's possessed and she's supposed to be some type of goddess. And I'm sorry if you guys haven't played through the game yet. You've had fucking 20 plus
Hey,
years.
we say that all the time. If it's been after a certain amount of
Yeah,
time,
It's
they're
there,
the
yeah,
asshole in the
yeah,
situation for not
absolutely.
playing the
You're the
game.
asshole.
So
Yeah,
fuck that.
fucking the
But yeah,
Rocky Robot movie from
the-
Pixar came out 2 days ago, and you're already too late.
Yeah.
The end of that the end of that game I remember very clearly because my mom was yelling at me to get in the car and go, and I was here fighting the final battle. We had to go pick up my aunt from the airport, and she's like, "Hurry up!" I'm like, "Mom, I'm almost done. Come on, your dad's getting mad." And if you don't know, my dad was 6'5", 355 pounds. He was a giant tree of a man. With, you said earlier, like you could hear your dad.
Oh yeah, the
walking.
stomps.
Yeah.
My dad walked quietly, and he just felt like an energy, like, oh shit. My
felt
dad,
the
my
darkness.
dad didn't get up and move unless absolutely necessary. And when he said anything, his voice was so low it would make the walls shake. It would rumble.
Damn.
Yeah, my dad was a very scary, calm, scary individual,
Yeah.
which was worse than somebody who just
Oh, yeah.
outburst. No, he was calm.
That's like Eric with his kids, except that when he walks in, he's like holding the Demon Slayer sword, and he's like, "You brought this up on your kill."
I'm all putting it like this. I'm like opening the sword slowly and it breaks.
Yeah.
Bang!
Bang!
Get the super glue.
But to finish up the story, so yes, at the end of the game, he does rescue her, and it ends off with that, that good can triumph against evil as long as you don't lose hope and you just keep fighting on. Because the last scene after you beat the final boss is she's attacking you, and as you're making your way to her, he's calling out to her, and she just keeps throwing lightning bolt after lightning bolt, and it keeps striking him down, and he keeps going. And she's like, "Don't come any closer. Stay away from me." And she keeps striking him
Damn.
until he finally gets to her, and he puts his arms around her. And then, like, this, it's just like everything in her just breaks at that
Fuck.
moment. And she stops being this tyrannical, evil empress goddess and goes back to being her sweet, gentle natured self because she finally recognizes him for who he is. But he
Damn.
literally went through hell. He was willing to die to prove that to her. And so I live in that very idealistic mindset too, that I romanticize a lot of shit. I think a lot of guys in general romanticize a lot
Because we
of
come
things.
from that generation.
We
that-
do. We
that
romanticize a lot of
Was
stuff.
still we were taught to be romantic to get the girl kind
Yeah.
of thing, and now if you try to do that, girls are like,
Yeah,
"Ugh, you're
girls
gay."
are turned
Like,
off
what
by
the
that.
fuck? But then
by
they're reading
you-
their romance novels. Oh, he's holding me so gently. I just need a man like that. Fuck.
Yeah, and
I
it's
think-
it's sad that honestly it is how a generation of people do feel about that. I think
Mhm.
it is really fucked up a lot of things. It's disconnected us that everyone thinks they're out for something, and we had talked about this during our gallivanting earlier. I keep saying I don't get to say that word often.
That's
so-
all right. It's gonna be the number one word in the
Yeah.
dictionary for
We
this
need
month.
a zombie right here. Hey, zombie.
That'll be
The name of the pod?
It'll be the
Gallivanting Shushivo Shuya.
Yeah, there you go. Gallivanting. There you go. Gallivanting. Shoshino.
Shubia.
Shubia. And I'll still spell this wrong.
I'm sorry, Smoke.
Get it up, Shimona. Really quick, before you finish that thought,
yeah.
have you ever heard of Mega Ran?
Yeah, I do. I actually listened to Mega Ran quite a bit. I was actually at MagWest this last weekend, and I got to see some artists. I wish Mega Ran would have been there, but he has been in events back East Coast. He's an East Coast rapper.
Yeah.
Does a lot of stuff within the FGC. Him, Zaid Tabani, Alex V are a lot of artists I follow.
Splash Woman.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what I'm thinking about when you're talking about that game.
Mhm.
Have you heard that song?
Mm-mm.
Okay, if you do, I'll send it to you before you go home.
Okay.
But it's Splash Woman, and he's talking about the whole song is awesome because it's got I think it's Mega Man, but the whole album itself, for anybody that doesn't know, kind of like if you're a fan of Anamanaguchi, but it was hip hop.
Yeah.
And he talks about meeting this girl, and he like is in love with her. Everything fits. Everything is fucking perfect.
Yeah.
And by the time their team up happens and they battle and they realize that they're like perfect, she gets taken away by this guy. And so he basically is like, well, why? And she goes, well, he gave me everything. Like, as much as this doesn't, it's not a good thing for me, this is my choice.
Yeah.
And so he finally fights her in a battle, and then she keeps taking blows. And immediately he's like, well, why aren't you fighting back? And she goes, I have to die. You have to let me go. And it's about the thing of having to go on.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about that game, that's that right there. It's called Splash Woman by Mega Ran. Is a phenomenal one if you're into video game music mixed with hip hop.
Yeah.
Super.
I love Mega Ran in general. I listen to a lot of his stuff, especially if it's like if it's telling a story. I got into that kind of stuff. People like Mega Man. I like Proto Man.
Mm-hmm.
The blueprint for what Mega Man became to be, the broken one.
Yeah.
And I listen to the Proto Men. If you know who the Proto Men are, they have 3 albums out. The third one's not fully finished, but the second act, it is a fantastic rock opera story. It tells the entire story of Dr. Light, Dr. Wily,
Wow.
Proto Man, and the eventual creation of Mega Man. And it's a fantastic journey. If you have not heard it, you gotta listen to it. It is
Yeah, I'm
incredible.
gonna have to listen to that.
It is incredible.
Is that the first song?
I'm sorry.
Amongst the Sea of Stars, the famous song.
No, the famous song that they have is called "Light Up the Night."
Okay.
It's about when Dr. Light has finally had enough of everybody turning on him. He tried to bring good to the world,
Right.
but everyone listened to a liar than to the truth of somebody who was speaking from the heart.
Right. But is it the album cover with the tree,
With a what?
with the tree and the sea?
No.
Okay, because there's one that they have that I really have come to like.
Mhm.
I just don't remember the name of it all.
Yeah, I actually got to see them live the night that we got, myself and Tron got the offer to open up the Retro Fix in the Bay Area.
Oh, nice.
So it was kind of like a poignant night. We really got to celebrate that night and,
Fuck yeah.
just think about what the future was going to hold.
What would be your first game that you really fell in love with, and then what would be the game that you fell in love with the story? Deadpool.
Definitely Double Dragon, stuff like that was really popular back in the day, and especially with me and my brother. Whenever we'd go to arcade, it was always any kind of game we could find that was team up. Ikari Warriors was one of them that we loved,
I love that.
because that one had the joystick that you could actually turn 360, so you could
Yep.
control the direction of what direction you're shooting the bullets at and whatnot. And of course, all the multiplayer ones, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and stuff like that. But
Final Fight.
the one that stuck out with me the most was Rampage. I just
Rampage.
loved Rampage so much. I don't know why, but that was just a fun one, especially because you got to be Godzilla or King Kong
And the wolf.
or the wolf. You know what I mean? And the wolf was the one that I usually like to pick because I don't know, I just like fucking wolves. But
Cool.
yeah,
You're gonna ruin my character so bad. I swear to God, my customers are gonna come in the store playing that shit. I'm so fucking pissed. They're literally gonna wake me up and get their ass beat.
And the best part about it is it's not even the normal version; it's the puppy version. 'Cause
Yeah.
They have every major
God.
song.
No, you know what's
My
even funnier
puppies.
is, you know how the most stores have that thing when you open up, it makes a ding dong. It's gonna have the doot 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 doot. It's like the whole beginning of the song just starts playing. From
My luck, if that was my song, I would the Sacred Society themselves, they wouldn't even do the normal song. They'd even do the Kids Bop version.
yeah, that.
Dude, kids ball. That shit goes so fucking hard.
And then
first
for-
one with a real storyline.
I've said this on the pod many times. It's Fallout. The Fallout 3, honestly, was what got me back into playing video games, and I think for me at that time, it was just the right RPG, the right story,
Yeah.
because you could make any choice you want. It was like reading your own choose your own adventure books.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up reading those a lot, so to me, it was one of those kinds, and it just stuck so much in that. And I mean, I went from 3 to New Vegas, you know, and now I'm still playing Fallout 4. Like I still put in fucking hours on that game because it's just, to me, it had such a great story, and even how all the stories, except for I don't know where New Vegas falls into the play, but 3 and 4 definitely connect, and there's a lot of lore that goes in about who the father is and all that other stuff. But those would be the one game for sure.
You mentioned you fell off, you got back in a game. So where was the fall off point?
It was probably after the arcade. This would have been 97, 98, because getting out of the arcades. I mean, I had full size arcade units in my house. I had off road. We used to do safe drunk driving because my neighbor across the way, they would just come over with a 12-pack and we would just drink and drive all night long,
Yeah.
but safely because they could walk back home and go to sleep without killing
See,
anybody.
this is what I was talking about earlier. It's a generational thing, right? I feel like I was born at that right time to kind of like ride that entire wave, as in versus like Dadpool. You know, he was being 6 years older puts him at a different point when these things came out and they're important to me. He's already in his adult life.
right.
He's already moved on from this shit.
Yeah, at 12, I was already
Yeah.
smoking cigarettes and
Yeah.
working on the
Yeah,
docks.
Yeah.
I had a fucking real job. I was like
Yeah.
Journey.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
you were
He yearned
yeah,
for the
yeah.
mines.
Someday
And you were
love
drinking,
will
and
find
you were
you.
fucking drinking and driving.
So-
He's like, someday show you again.
I actually have a song. I think there's always a song that takes me back to the 80s, and
Yeah.
for me, it's Billy Ocean's Caribbean Queen. Instantly
Caribbean Queen.
Takes
Yeah.
me back to the 1980s,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Riding down the street on my scooter.
When he said the Journey
with-
song, that's the
with-
one I go to.
with my shorts that are like this short,
yeah, the
and
oh
and,
my
and my
God.
socks are like this high.
See, so you
with
were around and you remember OP shorts.
yeah,
Yeah,
Ocean
and
Pacific.
you remember half shirts.
Oh, dude, the fucking midriff.
Yeah.
And you can get the ones that are see through. Yeah, I rocked that shit, bro. I rocked it with
Oh,
with
God.
that. I had the hat.
Remember the hat with the
About a
two
dude
flaps?
sweat.
Two flaps? The fucking.
Yes, I was just going to
Yes.
say that. I had that.
I remember that was popular from
Bro.
TC Hawaiian or something.
Yeah,
TNC.
TNC Surf. Yes,
Yeah.
so I had that. I had
Oh my
I had the
God.
sunglasses with the fucking louvers in them before Kanye was fucking rocking them. I used to rock that shit.
Oh
I used to
my
have
God.
fucking slap bracelets. I
Yep.
even had one of the shirts. This is a fucking throwback.
What's a
Yeah.
slap bracelet?
Little-
Slap bracelet.
So they basically had old material that
The
they would
fucking
have
you
from,
just
from,
hit it?
measuring.
Slap it.
Yeah.
You would slap it
And then
then
wrap
it would
around
just
your
go
hand.
around your face.
Ah,
Yeah.
You don't try it around your dick. So
Yeah.
it would
It
fit.
They had
It would miss.
they had shirts. They had what was it?
Just
What
fall
was
right
it? Was
off.
it what was it? Those shirts you could touch and then like it would change color.
Oh, the
Sequence.
thermals.
Thermos.
They were called something else though.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about though. But
So they had those shirts, and then the ones actually had like a latex mask attached to the front.
oh my
Very
God.
few people remember that
Oh
shit.
man,
They
Nah.
would have creepy shit as a mask that would be on the fucking middle of your shirt.
That
I
sounds like
remember Jimmy Z's.
Oh yeah, Jimmy Z's. Hell
the
yeah.
pants with the
yeah.
Velcro on the side.
Yeah, I used to fucking tighten my jeans.
do the peg at the
Fucking
bottom.
airwalks. Hell yeah, bro.
Airwalks,
I
there
fucking
you
had
go.
all that shit.
Oh shit! There we go.
something was getting pegged for sure.
Yeah.
But the
Just the
Hey, this was
jeans.
cool back then.
Yeah.
yes, it's a good thing. So back in 2024, no, it's ironic enough because
I wore an
everything's
onion on
come
my
back.
belt, which was the style at the time.
Exactly. And then 8 years later, the Messiah would be born. And my mom's like, ew. Yeah. She said she
From
sees
Kung
the
Pao, she's all bye bye.
so cute. Yeah, so cute. Bye-bye. Yeah, no, my mom was the first person to ever shoot a Kobe because she tried to aim for me in the biohazard bucket. She's like, Kobe, off the backboard. That's my chism comes
She
from.
misses.
Oh
The question, so the same question. What was the first video game you remember playing, and what was the one that you first fell in love with?
The first video game I remember playing was oh man, it was Sonic on the Sega Genesis. Yep. That one was like that's why I was telling you the other day. I was like, fuck, dude, I really need to fucking get a shadow tattoo or something. That was literally the console that got me into video games, because my cousin had it, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, I was just like fucking stricken by it because it was so cool, because it was just a fucking Sonic that literally just went in a circle, collected rings, and just jumped and ran fast. Like, I thought it was dope as fuck. But the game that like I fell in love with was Zelda, was the Ocarina of Time. Yeah, that's the
Oh,
one that
wow.
like drew me in with the story. My uncle had lived with me at the time, or lived with my parents and stuff, and he had it in his room, and I was like, "Oh, what are you playing?" And he's all, "It's on an N64." I was like, "Well, oh, cool, what's that?" So we're playing this game, and he had like, back in the day, they had the books. They had the books where you look through,
Sharks
yeah,
and
you
Farmer.
look through them, and it tells you like all the secret chests, all the everything that was
There
in
was
there.
no internet, folks.
Yeah, there's
and
no
tricks.
All
internet
there
back
was,
in
but
the.
3 minutes per kit was not a fucking
Yeah.
good ratio.
Yeah, no,
So I
no.
was told.
So that was the one game I think that really like struck me with the story. And then the follow up game, which was a Majora's Mask. And so yeah.
My first introduction to video games was like Pong, and because I mean all my siblings are much older. Like
Right.
the crazy thing is most of my siblings are your guys' age, and those are the babies. My oldest sibling is way up there. So like the hand-me-downs or the stuff that I'd get to be introduced to by older cousins and stuff was very much like ColecoVision.
Oh yeah.
I got introduced to. There was another one that you guys had, but it looked like a computer. It was like a foldable one.
Was that not the Commodore? Because the Commodore had its own. I remember my dad having something similar to that. It was called the K-Pro something.
But there was, stuff like that. And then the real OGs remember in the 90s when there was like a little 3 AA battery, and it was like the driving game. It was a little handheld,
yeah.
and then it just moves because the light.
They had those
Right.
in the 80s too. Those
Yeah,
were cool.
yeah. That was a lot of stuff. But when I really started getting into it, I remember being at a babysitter's house, and I saw Mario Brothers, and I was like, "What the fuck is this? This is interesting." That was the first time I'd ever played a video game in general, and I thought it was really fun.
What system was it?
It was the original Nintendo.
Oh, so the 8-bit.
Yeah.
So you're going old school.
Oh
Old
yeah,
school.
yeah.
Yeah,
She
that's
had it. And
far
I
back.
remember
That's
playing it, and I
cool.
was just infatuated by. I have to jump to get to this flag,
Mhm.
and how my brain was like, if I don't make this fucking flag, I'm gonna die. It's like,
That was every 80 kid.
yeah,
Yeah.
dude. It was just like I said, 89.
I'm the 80s too.
Yes, please.
Accept me. Don't let me in with the 91.
And I played a bunch of different stuff. Chrono Trigger. I played a lot of Zelda. Ocarina of Time was definitely one of the heaviest games for me that I remember playing actively. I remember getting a PlayStation like a hand-me-down.
Mhm.
It was the very first one, and it came with just the demo of like
Yep.
Tomb Raider, some weird
Mm.
like he was like a little he has a little
Toomba.
orange- Toomba, thank
Toomba,
you.
yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Remember,
So-
I brought that CD. I showed you all the stacks of CDs that I have from
Yeah.
all the
Toomba.
PlayStation magazines.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I remember, and one of the kids at school was like, "Hey, you can see Laura Croft naked," and I was, "Oh no, fuck you!" So here goes
Some
like it was
8-bit
probably-
titties?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
They look
My
like a
fucking
Cybertruck.
dumbass.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got a bunch of snot-nosed, mixed fucking minority kids in a room where we could barely like sit still and
Smells like
speak.
hot carne asada and corn
No,
chips.
Yeah, it smells like a dog kennel. You can barely get us, you can barely get us little fucking it was like widow wetbacks. We were all in this room. You could never get us to pay attention in class. But boy, did we look
Oh
like
my
scientists
God.
with beakers and stopwatches trying to figure this shit out.
Mhm.
One of them found it out. I don't know how, but it was a glitch or some bullshit, and it was just all skin tone. Like it was just
You
so
didn't get
weird.
to see really anything, but
No, but like
the idea.
every
But I was about to say the
every
idea
single
of it was
guy-
fucking dope as fuck.
Yeah,
I'm
Every
sure.
single guy is in that room, and you're all trying to do it the cold
Yes,
air.
yeah.
Exquisite.
I think of that Family Guy
Those are
scene.
some mighty fun boobies.
Yeah, look at those triangles. Look at those gazungas.
That scene in Family Guy where Stewie's sitting with those old rich white guys, and he's all, quite, yes, indeed.
No, that 100% was us. Like we were so taken back by like just seeing that, and we were like, oh my fucking god.
Hear a knock at the door.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what wrestling was like for me.
Yeah.
The fucking knock at the door.
Oh,
Wrestling-
really?
Wrestling,
dude,
shut
fucking-
up.
Dude, wrestling. I swear to God, my mom would always walk
Like
on the
the
weirdest
opening.
fucking parts. She's like, what are you always watching wrestling for? Walks in, just titties.
Yeah.
Like, this is wrestling, Mom.
Yeah. Dude, you're going to look at that and tell me that you're not going to want the volume that guy has in his hair. The Ultimate Warrior. The only thing that dude's battling is the ozone right now. Aquanet. Woo! So that was kind of where it was. I think when I finally got into... Because like Kingdom Hearts was cool. There was a lot of really awesome games, but I had a very long time I didn't play video games.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Halo was the very first experience I had in an open world, quote unquote, here, because my
Right.
brain had never seen anything outside of that. But I knew about the books. I knew about the other games. Vice City was another one where, I mean, that was all my sister's music. So, you know, I'm over here trying to be like, my mom was like, "Who's that girl in the car?" She's the hooker. And I'm like, "That's my partner. She's helping me fight crime." Why are they bouncing the car? They're beating the guy up. Why is she leaving and you're losing money?
The crime is on the floor in the car.
Listen, partners aren't free, okay? In this economy, a house is still $125,000. Who's got that kind of cash?
It's the hydraulics, man.
Yeah, exactly. You know what this was. But I think what really kicked it for me truly was I did not truly sit down with a video game and get invested into it. I mean, I'll say Zelda was the first one that really made me aware of it, but I will reserve it till I was in my early 20s when God of War was remade, Ghost of Tsushima. I was dealing with a lot of death, and I remember that in Cyberpunk. So Tsushima, God of War.
Why is it you can say that one right, but you can't say King?
Listen, Carlo Kaluba is not my problem. Okay,
He said Ghost of Tsushima without
listen.
He even had the accent to it.
Yeah.
Ghost of Tsushima.
Eric, that's racist. You know it's a shop. I can't fuck with this business. You work for me. I want to apologize right now as I do this live firing. Next on Shark Tank. I remember when of Ghost of Tsushima. I had a real big moment because my dad was really big on no funeral, no nothing. And the way that he had gone was a really interesting way. But I was at that part. You've played the game, I'm assuming.
I played very little of it because the time that it had come out, my dad had passed, and my dad was kind of the same way too.
Oh, so it was probably around the same time.
It was around the same time.
And so there's a moment where you have to basically bury. You have to bury a master, but it's something goes wrong and blah 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 blah. But basically, he makes this motion where you have to choose to do the burial, and he's like, everybody deserves some form of honor, and that's where I was like, man. And then I was playing God of War again, and I was just kind of going through it and seeing that, and I think that, and then Cyberpunk also just kind of like the idea of wanting to continue to do something where you and a friend, Jackie in the beginning, he's like, we're going to be at the big top essay, and then what happens. And the entire time, if you ever play the negative version where you're just a piece of shit to Johnny, he goes, if you can live with it on your soul, remember, Jackie said, can you hold this for me? And he uses that as a way of being like, you are responsible for his legacy. And, you know, me being a smartass, I'm like, motherfucker's dead, not my problem. But I mean, like, the reality of it is each one of them had to deal with a idea of, I think, how I truly love those games. Like, I love Dark Souls. I love all these other, I love all these different renditions of what I do appreciate about games. Batman, all the Arkham games were a huge thing to me, especially for Paul Dini, being such a great writer. Alex Ross as one of the main guys. Anything that we talked earlier about Tim Miller, what he touches. But when I finish a game, like I finish a good book, when I put it down and I have the same feeling that I do when I shut the lights off at Sacred 8, where it's like, that is when I know it truly means something to me, that is on an integral level, that I don't care how imperfect it is. Life's not perfect. That game is fucking what it is. So that, to me, has always been such a cool thing about it. Now, in the comic book world, we have things in the toy world, in the collector's area, we see things that everyone's always like, man, I wish I could have this, I wish I could have that. What do you think is the most overly hyped video game you come across, and what is one that you feel like people don't appreciate enough?
The most overhyped is going to be Call of Duty.
Oh, I agree with that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree with that
Fuck
one.
you, Edwin. Sorry, kill him on it.
Yeah. And the only reason why it's got nothing to do with the fact that they create a quality game. Call of Duty games are quality games. The problem is the people behind the financial backing that runs video games, just like anything now. It's no longer about the game.
Nope.
It's about how much money can you make us. And all these big companies push this on people who step in to fucking make games because they love to make games. They love to create. Think about it. Every artist ever, when, just as you said earlier, when they make it, it's like, fuck you. Right? Everyone loves you until they hate you, and then they copy you.
Yeah.
So people who go into the field to make video games who eventually end up in that area is like, well, what are you working on? It's like, actually, I'm working on Call of Duty now. And you want to do your best at it. You don't go in there with the mindset to do your worst, but you get hammered down by the higher-ups who don't most likely know how to make any fucking video games.
Nope.
And they just want results. Money, 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 money. And that's when games stops being fun. And that's why the generation of gamers now seek refuge in retro. Because it's when gamers got to have fun with fucking games. And that's, I think, a lot of reason the passions that I have for the gaming industry is very much buried in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s before it became so mainstream. And when people come in to my store or call me and say, hey, I got some games to sell. And I says, well, we primarily deal in retro. And like, oh yeah, so I got like PlayStation 4 or stuff like that. It's like, it's not really retro. There's still some good games on it. But I consider the last final retro generation Gen 6. And Gen 6 is going to be Xbox, PS2,
Yep.
GameCube,
Yep.
and if you want to consider it, Dreamcast as well.
Oh yeah.
And the reason why I consider this the final true generation of retro is because this is before gaming went mainstream.
Oh yeah.
Gaming went
Yeah.
mainstream in Gen 7 with PS3, 360s, and Wii's because we had the first start of online gaming with digital content, downloadable games, and you had influencers, musicians, celebrities, all these different type of people touting like, oh, I just got this system, like I got the first Xbox, I got this, I got that. And it stopped being this thing that only a few people enjoyed. It became this mass thing. It's like, well, how can we market more money out of this?
Yeah.
Ludacris fucking had 2 PS2s in one of his lowriders. Remember, he has it.
Oh, yeah.
He has it in the Word of Mouth album, one of the music videos, and it was funny because it was weird for a lot of people when we were growing up, like in school, to be like, PlayStation.
Yeah,
Like the idea of someone gaming.
yeah,
Jet Set Radio Future was one of mine, where
Yeah.
I was like, the music hit, the
Yeah.
art style was amazing, everything. But Nikki, who's what I was gonna say, she
Mhm.
worked for Activision for Call of Duty.
Mhm.
We have Jamaro, who works for Marvel Snap as the lead art director for all
Yeah.
their art, and you see how they speak about making games.
yeah,
And it is completely different from the
Yeah.
environment that they know that they work in.
yep,
And it sucks because, like you said, there's no love in it anymore, and the only people who benefit from it are the ones that
that's at the top.
Yeah.
yeah. And that's why I had showed him earlier Secret Level,
Oh, dude, I am so looking forward to
Yeah.
that show.
because
Yeah.
he pointed out the Love, Death, and Robots. He goes, oh, I really like that. And I was
Yeah.
like, did you know about this? He's like, no, I'm looking for my I had just put down the remote before you got in
Yeah.
here. I was like, oh God,
Yeah,
fuck you.
he,
Oh God.
he tore this place apart, flipping it. He went like full Chris Farley, like flipping shit over.
Fucking, almost what was it? Almost Heroes or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something, guys. Oh,
Yeah. No, I definitely have a passion for what artists do, and part of what I tell people, the reason why I say in a lot of my videos is to play your games.
Yeah.
The people who work in the gaming industry spend a lot of time away from home. They miss holidays, birthdays,
Yep.
Christmases, family time, childhood plays, parent-teacher conferences, whatever it may be. They miss a lot to be doing what they do, following their passions. For us to not engage in those passions and show it the respect and actually try a game, play it, and ask ourselves, is it fun versus what a lot of people is like, well, how much is it worth? People are have basically infiltrated our collective who want to make money off of us in one way or another. And here I am with my store, and I can guarantee you my store costs more to run than probably a couple other stores do put together in this area. And I still sell stuff for a cheaper price than a lot of other people do and in better condition. And it's only because I really do love gaming.
Yeah.
I really do want people to come in and have a good experience from beginning to end, that they can get the games they want. And I'll refer people to all different types of games that are cheap. because they're quality. Price is not indicative of the value of what you're actually getting.
Right.
Right. A couple of my favorites, and this is, I was going to talk about this earlier since you love comics. The Darkness is one that I talk to people a lot about, and it's a game that just ends the way it needs to end, and it's not a happy ending, but it's an inevitable one, and it's sad and it's broken and it's fucking brilliant. It has some of the most heartbreaking moments that just shatter your perception of people, of trust,
Yeah.
of the reality that we live in, and that everyone's just out for them fucking selves. And the main character you play in that, Jackie Estacado, I mean, it's just done brilliantly. It came out like 2005, 2006. It's an early Xbox 360, PS3 title, usually like $5 to $10. Fucking excellent.
Another game that I really loved just for the idea of imagination was Fable. Fable
Yeah.
was a huge
those
one
were
for me.
good
That
games,
I remember
yeah.
fucking immediately like, oh, I'm a homeowner. The only time I'd ever been one.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wait, I can sleep with a chick and a dude? Does it make me evil? If you slept with a dude in the like before they did a patch at one point, it gave you evil stuff. Not that I've heard. So I was like,
Allegedly.
wait. Yeah, allegedly. And I was like, oh god damn it!
Allegedly.
Yeah, why am I so evil? You know, I'm a girl. You say it in a way that I appreciate it. I'll ask you a question. Do you remember a game on PlayStation or PlayStation 2? Mostly PlayStation 2. But it was a game where you were like an insane asylum character. The ambulance crashes over. You have to fight with an axe, and at some point you're at the Eiffel Tower. Rob Zombie's music was on it.
This is PlayStation 2.
It was either PlayStation or PlayStation 2. My Uncle Dave was the only white guy out of my Uncle Bob and the entire family, but he was like a true old metalhead, like fucking Hail Dr. Satan, you know? Huge white zombie fan, everything, but I remember the intro had Super Beast by Rob Zombie in the Hellbilly Deluxe. And when it goes into it, your ambulance crashes, you get out, and there's like zombies, and you're just using a hatchet. He looks like a very kind of a Johnny the Homicidal Maniac kind of art.
What game
But
is
my
that?
uncle played it, and I remember him because he was a big Gran Turismo guy, and then he was into like horror games, and I remember him playing racing games, and then he introduced me to oh my god, what the fuck was it called? He introduced me to like a bunch of like different slasher games and whatnot, but I was just always infatuated because every time he would play, he got the little steering wheel and all that, and he goes, so watch, if I build it this way and I do this, and my dad again did a lot to try to connect, but in the way that he kind of knew for a dude being so old, you know. But my uncle really took the time to be like, check this out. I know you don't like cars, but this is why I love it. And the game itself was so invigorating to him. What my dad did with that was with comics, where I think like Dan Midnight's in the chat, no names in the chat. What's up, boys? But like we had Dan on last week about Batman and how the funny thing is comic books have become such a profitable margin for people in the resellers market that they don't enjoy just reading.
Yep.
And a huge thing about comics and pulps and everything, I'll send you that interview with Tim, but I was talking to Derek about this, I've talked to Cheese, I've talked to you, but I really love how this dude always talks about, you know, why did Love, Death, and Robots do so well? A lot of people don't realize most of those are pulps from the 50s. Outer Limits, The X-Files, Space Jam. No, but a bunch of impressive stories that we've ever seen that we believe to be original are stories that were left to time that we don't know about anymore. Manga and anime is such an interesting ideology to me. The original version of what's the most talked about anime of all time?
Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
And One Piece.
Legendary Legacy.
Fuck.
You're not wrong when you talk about Dragon Ball, but Akira.
Oh.
But we don't see Akira as a anime. We see it as a movie
Yeah, that's
that
true.
happens to be anime. You have your Vampire Hunter D's, your Ghost in the Shells. You know, you have all these beautiful things that were cinematic features that people made into these grandiose things. The time and effort that was put into those stories, just like video games, was a fucking labor of love that very few people outside of their niche cared about.
Yeah.
But they fucking did it. And here we are years later, sitting amongst each other, a bunch of nerds. Like, can you imagine if we were all the same age in 7th grade, talking the way we are now?
Right.
That would be a hell of a fucking table, and not a lot of food to share. But I mean, like in the ideology, like we would absolutely be like, that's so fucking cool. And I feel like the fake influencer bullshit that we see today of what TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all these things have brought on is the imitation of love and art, when truly it's hard to amalgamate what that is. I think Akira is better than most things because it made 1,000 people think about how they create art. Dragon Ball did that for people. One Piece is doing that for people. And video games have done that for a lot. I can look at Fable and I can look at certain type of monochromatic art or lenticular art and be like, oh, that looks amazing, that's so cool. But then I can look at that game that I've never been able to find out what that game was.
I was looking up a bunch of different horror games. Suffering, The Suffering is one of them
No,
that comes
Suffering's
up.
a great one, but that's not it. That's another fucking good story, 'cause I love horror games. But I can look at that game, and even though I can't remember it, I vividly remember the act of it, and I remember, oh, well, fucking Rob Zombie and House of a Thousand Corpses. Then I go to my books over here, like Graven Images, and I can see where everything connects. And that storytelling comes from a place of passion. When you're at a place like Retro or like Sacred or even like where you're at, I wouldn't say the place that Dadpool is currently at is a place of passion, but the person behind the counter is absolutely in place of it.
Yeah.
Same as you are with what you do. Like you are one of the youngest tattooers I know, and you absolutely have stepped up to one of the, like the biggest plates because you're around heavy hitters. I'm not saying myself. I'm saying like the people that you look up to.
Yeah.
And you can hold your own for the most part.
Yeah.
It's a big thing, but
Thank you.
fuck you. No, but I truly mean that because
Yeah.
here's the thing. He learned from your generation as I have learned from, I kind of consider myself in your guys' generation, not the 89 joke because my siblings were literally your age. So all the hand-me-downs, I thought Howard the Duck was new in like 94. I was like, this is fucking great. Sanzu did not want to watch it, but Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, when she was like,
Oh
it
my
looks so
God.
terrible. I go, fuck you. You know
With
what?
the young George Clooney in that
yeah,
one?
Yeah, trying to take my ring off.
Are he using that movie?
I think so, yeah.
Oh man,
yeah.
I haven't seen that.
It is fucking god awful. It's
It's
amazing.
not as bad as the Garbage Pail Kids movie.
Oh, that one
And
was
I'll
bad.
still
They
watch
made a
it.
movie
I'll
out of
watch
that?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they're worth watching because you know why? Every bit about that made something about us that made it unique, right? So when you want to make your art, and when we are making art, when you're influenced, like your version of what you've studied has absolutely been something that has come from their generation that you guys had to have lived. The people you studied are people that, well, and created what you like. They studied a whole nother world, like
Right.
vaudeville and stuff.
Yeah.
So when you see how that linear process works, I look to people like yourself or like him, and even you, where I say, "Fuck, dude, you're so passionate about this. What's a game that truly would make me feel like this, and what's a game that would make me feel engaged like this?"
Mm.
Dead Space is one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah,
Right? The Suffering, another good game.
yeah.
I'm not a real big Left 4 Dead fan. I'm not a real big. One of my buddies worked on that game, the one where they're in Oregon and he's on a motorcycle and there's a bunch of zombies chasing.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Fucking
I don't know. Something.
yes, yeah. The Sons of Spamarchy.
Yeah.
And I really do feel that when I go to someone like yourself, it's like how people come to me about art. This is what I love. Can you help me find something else to make that love greater? And that to me is the real skill. We were very blessed to be part of a time where storytelling became a huge part of what engaged us.
Yeah.
You know? Now what the reason it feels dead, I think, to a lot of us as artists is because we never were truly passed the torch like they did back in the day.
Yeah.
We're the storytellers. So all of a sudden you're like, well, they don't do it like they used to. Well, yeah, dude, that's your fucking job. And you're like, oh, yeah, go ahead, do it. So that's where I feel like it's so interesting. Like you have your shop, we have ours, and they're two different sides of a coin that flip the same,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And a lot of times, like, what would be a game you think people don't play enough, Julie?
Game that people don't play enough. Well, that's kind of hard to say on nowadays.
Well, let
'cause-
me rephrase that, because you answered the Call of Duty one. You didn't answer the question of what do you think
Oh.
doesn't get enough credit?
What game doesn't get enough credit? Ooh. That's easier. That's a little harder to answer than the Call of Duty.
He's a
one.
sussy baka fool.
Yeah.
Writes it down.
Well, there's definitely a stark contrast between Japanese developed games and Western style developed games. Deadpool was talking about Fallout. Fallout's very engrossing because you're literally that character living your life, playing it the way you want to play. So every decision is up to you. The outcome is up to you, and that's what makes it very unique. You don't want to do anything in particular. You can run off and go do something completely else. You're not on a linear path, and your story is kind of yours to make. That would actually be an example of a really great game to play. For me, it's always something that's narrative driven, because as we both are, we're both long storytellers. We like story. We like narrative.
Really?
That's why I like wrestling. Wrestling is the long narrative, And I always go back, and I love to watch classic wrestling from like the 80s and early 90s, because those guys had to work 110% on character development, right? To really, and like you go back and you look at wrestling now, which is great, but you really go back and watch the guys who kind of set the forebearers, and like, damn, the character work. You guys really were just all so over the top with your characters that you were these people. You were never your actual self.
Yeah.
And like you can really get behind or really hate certain people. I don't
Who the
feel that
heroes
anymore.
are and all
There,
that,
everything
yeah.
was very black and white back then. Everything nowadays is very gray. It's like everyone's good guy, bad guy,
See, I didn't know I didn't know. I think the reason why I'm not a fan of wrestling whatsoever. Not that I don't like it, but it's I never was engaged.
Yeah.
And it didn't dawn on me when I was a kid until I realized that when we went to Mexico, as every family does, to go visit a family member, and I was like, why are they in the trunk? Don't open it.
That's your new tia.
You're late,
she's,
Tia.
she's heavy.
You're late, Tia.
But we went to go see a luchador thing,
Oh,
and I
shit.
saw them throw out the tacks on the table, and I saw the version of these guys where I couldn't understand them or anything, but there was this guy and he goes, "Levántate, levántate," and the guy fucking slowly gets up, and some dude literally picks him up and just tosses him without even like he was a fucking rag doll. Goes over the rope and lands on a table with tacks in his back. And I remember looking at that shit and I was all, he's bleeding. Like he's really bleeding.
Yeah.
And I had seen on TV them fake punch each other. And I
Right.
was like, this is real. And my mom's all, if you don't get your shit together, that's going to fucking be you. I was all, screams in Spanish, And I think that's what really, that's why I didn't give it a real genuine try, because I thought everything was just fake. I didn't get to know the stories. I knew like good guy, bad guy, and the only dude I remember was my cousin watching on a little 10-inch TV, and he was playing Ninja Gaiden or something like that.
Ninja
Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gaiden. There you go.
Gaiden.
And,
Yeah.
uh,
That's how you
Gaiden.
pronounce it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah.
And
Too much dick on your tongue when you say
And
that.
that actually, with you mentioned Ninja Gaiden, that's probably what I would say. If you had to pick a game that more people need to play more, it's not Ninja Gaiden. Ninja Gaiden's great. The Like a Dragon series. I'm a big fan of that. It's I'm currently playing Infinite Wealth, which is probably number 20 some odd in the traded series. But these games are so well done, they feel like games because it's absolute serious. It's absolutely zaniness. 1 minute you're kicking ass, the next minute you're driving a bike doing deliveries. It's fucking silly as shit. And it's lovable because it's all about character development, kick-ass music. It's Sega at its finest, and I think Sega really still has arcade magic when
Yeah.
they make games, and that's why I've always been partial to Sega. They were literally the forebearers, the trailblazers, the groundbreakers for all different types of new tech that came out that everyone kind of stood back and watched as Sega did what they did. It's like let them cook.
Yeah, remember they went from cartridge based that everybody was doing at that time, and then they introduced the Sega CD.
Sega CD.
And that was like, okay.
That
And
was-
then what was the one that came out? The Saturn.
Saturn.
The
yeah.
Saturn came out and then did another thing that was a connector
They
on that
did.
one because I
So
remember my brother had that.
They were always good about with creating like new hardware technology, right? Always looking at what the future of gaming could be, right? So they were technically the second on the market, but they were already developed. It was only by like I think a week or two
Yeah.
that NEC came out with the Turbo CD system.
Turbo Graphics?
But Turbo Graphics got a CD system.
Yeah, that's right.
And we were supposed to have the Sega CD was supposed to beat them at launch, and they didn't. But they already had the technology in development. They are the first ones to create analog technology, which is used to this day and still with current systems. They created that. They were the first gaming console to create online broadband X-band connectivity to play games online with your consoles. They were the ones to create external memory. Sega did it all.
Yeah.
And Sega is not a Japanese company to start. They're a Japanese company now, but they're actually an American company that was used for the U.S. military. Sega stands for, it's shortened for Service Games.
Really?
They were, yeah. They
Oh,
were
wow.
used. They were used in the Navy to train people. Yeah, pretty cool. My
Huh.
son, I don't know if my son knows that, but now he knows.
The best part about it is like you're about to fucking shoot some guy out of the air and Black Hawk Down. It's all Sega.
Maybe that's why Afterburner was like a really cool game,
Yeah.
better than fucking Top Gun on
Yeah.
Nintendo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I remember my cousin playing Nijay like Gay Son, and it's a real game, Christopher. And
It's a real game, Dad.
yeah. First and foremost,
Play with ninjas.
stop. Yeah,
Stop hitting
yeah. Don't make me throw my stars. at you.
Behave.
But he was playing
Your Ninja Crinkle
Ninja
Stars.
Gaiden, and he was watching on his little TV. He was watching the Iron Sheik,
Oh.
and he was facing
Humble you.
the warrior guy.
Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And like you said, what I appreciated about it at the time was like I was like, dude, these dudes are fun because it was always like they were in each other's face. They were
Yeah.
always about that, and
Real
I
top
just,
character work.
I remember. Remind me before he goes about the cards.
Oh, yes.
But please.
Yes.
But it was different for me because I just didn't really engage in it, right?
Yeah.
I still feel like that's a really weird thing of where reading a lot about how stories are told. Derek, also known as Holy Hot Dog, shared something with me this morning that I really fucking love to hear because it's a moment where like actual nerds have a like, oh, that's so cool. Like, I'm stoked for you, man. Back to the conversation of the right tables. When you see somebody come up and you're like, fucking A, man, finally, good for you. And it was him talking about the Super Rani, their studio tour of Kim Gee's collective before he passed. Kim Gee is a very famous artist that was a South Korean artist that just was the master of masters. And he was like, dude, I've watched this fucking walkthrough like 6 times because it just pumps me up. And he's there and he's like, oh yeah, and I think you've seen part of it, right? Where he's like, yeah, here's the creator of One Piece, the creator of Dragon Ball, and all this send me thank you stuff. And he's not saying it in a very dickhead way. He's like, I'm very grateful, but like, these are just cool people that I've been very fortunate to meet. And you go through this museum, the creator of Akira only had 2 bikes made specifically to his specs that are like real metal bikes, and he has one of them. Like everybody in the world respects this dude.
Yeah.
He's the Korean Tim Miller. You know what I mean? He's the physical drawer to Tim Miller is the digital storyteller. And one thing about it is that when Derek was talking about, oh dude, it's just you see the story and the caliber of person that has to be there, you have to truly fucking love what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that, I think, going back to what you said at the beginning of the podcast, which was talking about the shit that you live with in your head and the stuff that I think all of us do, which is why we run so hard and deep into the multiverse of sadness, so to speak. That becomes a multiverse of radness because we love being in places that we can't theoretically achieve physically, but we can live in it here
Yeah.
and here. And that is where I feel like it's such a huge up on our take for being able to say, like, I don't like fighting games at all. Street Fighter is the one game I'm like, whack, because I'm not competitive.
Yeah.
So when someone's like, I'm gonna beat your ass tomorrow, is that a promise? You know, like, I don't have a huge thing towards that, but I see somebody get into it, and I'm like, dude, that's fucking rad. The one time I really appreciated anybody, I'm assuming he's from Street Fighter, is Wreck-It Ralph. Where Zangief, right? And he's like, he's a Zangief is a bad guy, but that does not make him a bad guy.
Yeah.
Every person that was watching a video game in that thing, sitting in that theater being like, oh, that's mine. Oh, that's mine. And there's a childlike wonder that I think a lot of us try to heal from. And the beautiful thing about people that are in the chat who actively feel, and I think you get this tremendously where you're at, as we do here, but people feel like, fuck, man, I didn't really do what I wanted in my life. And I don't know if I did the right thing. No, you absolutely fucking did what you did. You're here right now.
Yeah.
Your job wasn't to provide this. Your job was to enjoy it. My burden is to be the ferryman, as yours is, to shuttle them to the next thing or help them with what they want.
Yeah.
We all have a purpose in enjoying the love of what is created. To have a place like Retro, to have a place like Sacred 8, and the other places that you haven't mentioned before that are in the Bay, that are all around the world, that provide these things, it's like there was no torch to be passed. We earned it. You opened the chest and you found your own, and you're like, cool, what's my next adventure? It's handing the next quests off. And that, I think, is something that you cannot take away from people like yourself or from us, where it doesn't matter how fucking, like, in true video game fashion, as comic book or anime would go, everything that could have fucking gone wrong for you, especially you, and you, but I mean, like, everything that could have gone fucking bad and that would have turned you bad did. But you didn't go sour. You actually persevered, and you became a better fucking version of that. You are the living embodiment of meeting the thing, and you're embracing that person from your game. You're meeting that fucking thing that made you feel excited and said, fuck, that's what I want to do. And you're going out in the world and saying, I'm not going to be afraid of this. I'm going to fucking meet it no matter what comes at me. You are the living embodiment of what you've always fucking loved to do. The hard part about seeing it is when you're going through that journey, from a video game's perspective, the hero never knows they're on a journey.
Right.
They're just on a task.
Yeah.
And they can't enjoy the full gratitude of who the fuck they are.
Yeah.
We get the privilege of that. So the ones who benefit us through Captain Muggins, 3AM Ghost, and through Retro, as well as Sacred 8, is they see the path that we are on, not the task. And we are forever grateful for what you do for the community as we try to do ours, man. Because it lets us know we're on the right fucking way.
Yeah.
So before we end tonight, because I know you got to get back home, and I know that we got to go ahead and share some stuff for next week's stuff. Where can people find you, brother? Where on social, on your sales, and where can people physically look for you?
Well, we're located in Campbell, California at 400 East Campbell, California. It's the Retrofix 2 Turbo. Most predominantly, we are on Instagram. Secondary is through Facebook. I don't really check Facebook, so if you want to message us through Instagram. Twitter exists, rarely use it. It's mostly for me to look at fun art and goof around and shit.
Fun art.
Fun art.
Titties. shout out to #titties.com. It's just a lot of fun. I do love a lot of art.
Gonna take the title of
thing is,
Hentai Hokage.
just so like with this other, I never shame people for the types of art that they do, whether it's what people consider traditional or is considered lewd. I think all art is fantastic, and that's why my store deals with the things that they deal with, because I have no judgment against these folks. They're just doing their passions. And something I want to iterate before we wrap up too, that last statement, falling, but the hero doesn't know he's on a quest, right? You kind of tied in everything right here that we talked about, the video games they play, why do we love them, the family, all these things. It all brought us to this point, right? Here we are, and I try not to get emotional about this stuff, but I'm a very emotional person, and my
This
pain,
is the place to do it.
my
Absolutely.
pain is really a driving force behind what I do. And just thinking about that, like, I tell people, you're here because everything that tried to kill you couldn't. You beat it all. You don't realize it, but you're stronger than everything that's trying to put you down. You're still going. So you're not as weak as sometimes you may feel like you are. But all those things, me loving Double Dragon, loving Lunar, loving the types of movie, loving wrestling, those characters, those developments, those things, that people never giving up, fighting for what they want to have happen and not calling it quits. That really kind of like took me back when you said that thing, kind of brought it all together here. You never know that you're on that quest,
Yeah.
you know?
For those who see it as a task, know that there is a purpose. Because you do not see the end of the tunnel does not mean that it's not there. I make the joke of, do you know what me not killing myself at 20 proofs? I can't follow through with anything. There's the joke about that, because one of my favorite friends goes, "Fuck, bro, you want to know what the sucky thing about you dying is?" I'm like, "What?" He goes, "We have to fucking act like we care." And he goes, because the best part about acting like you care is hiding the fact that you love. And I never forgot that statement, because it's true. We care. We take so much time finding reasons to care. We make love the secondary action when that should be the first thing we do.
Yeah.
And that's why we're in this room. And a lot of people who you wolfed out, so to speak, are not, because business is important. Money is important. Endeavors are important. But if you have no true love or passion for something, especially yourself, finding it in what you do, it's never going to work. And the labor of love starts within you, and you have to carry that, because if you don't, as kitschy and drippy dippy this seems, I know some of you are out there, fuck you, Rivers.
Fuck.
Yeah.
That was personal.
Absolutely.
He knows it's all love.
Yeah, he's been to Shindanuga. The truth is, man, like, you need to be more proud of yourself as you. We've talked about it with you. You on yourself, you're a young kid, man. You're only a few years younger, but you're still young.
Yeah.
And like, take it from 2 older men and 1 grumpy man. The biggest fuck up anyone can ever do is never admitting their fear. Because when you don't admit that you're scared, you never try to be brave. So as long as you can admit that you're scared and you can be brave, you can meet any task. That's the whole fucking point of a comic book or a video game. They're not the best choice. They're the one who made the choice the best.
Right.
Do it and hold it true.
Yeah, that's good words.
Thank you, brother, for being here
Yes,
with us.
thank
Much
you,
love.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For anything else, if you guys want to go ahead and check out Retro, please check out everything that we will have on the Discord.
Yes.
You can go to sacred8studio.com. You can also go on to at Sacred 8 Studios on Instagram or our YouTube channel. We will have all the links for Retro up there, as well as Sega Wolf. You will go ahead and check them out. Look at their tournaments, look at their live events, look at their trade days, and if you are looking to finally get your hands on some video games that we sure as fuck ain't gonna carry, there.
I'm trying.
Okay.
And this is sponsored by Shino Shunya.
Thank you to Simona.
Yeah.
Simona. We appreciate
Simone.
you. You was cold as ice, baby. Okay. And so say the society. So